Part 283. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2833. Jia Yan and the woman were silent for a moment. For those who are righteous, no matter what their strength is or what social level they are in, they will be respected. Jia Yan seemed to treat equals and strong men and gave his promise. First of all, I want to tell you that this martial arts star is not an indispensable treasure for forces like us. You may be unhappy to say this, but presumably, as a powerful person of the venerable level, you should also know something about the black and white dual gods. You will naturally know whether I am exaggerating or not. He kept it secret and said, secondly, I can also be honest with the three of you. The purpose of our fight for the dominance of Geixing is to compete with the white god system, and we are not sure whether the war will spread to Geixing in the future. You don't have to with such an expression, there is nothing you can do about it. What I can promise you is to reduce the loss of people's lives and property to the lowest possible level. As for whether you believe it or not, it's up to you. Jia Yan is a fiery person, and his long years of living as a strong man have developed his character of not being sloppy in his actions and words. In this way, in a few words, he made it clear what he wanted to say. Regardless of whether the content of the words is satisfactory, at least the straightforward style is comfortable. The middle-aged man did not expect that Jia Yan was not procrastinating and responded to his question head-on. And explain all the reasons and consequences clearly. After thinking for a moment, he nodded slumpily and said, Your Excellency, you are a man of temperament. My question has been answered very well. To be honest, the three heroes and I have already understood the matter of the black and white god system when we traveled to alien planets. I have learned about it from the side. I thought that people under the rule of gods should be arrogant people. I didn't expect that there are reasonable people like you. Although your answer does not satisfy me, I am willing to believe in your sincerity. As one of the three heroes, I hereby promise you that if the Black God system takes control of the martial arts star one day, and does not cause too much damage to the planet, the three heroes will be driven by the Black God system, and they will do whatever it takes, but in that situation before, please forgive me for having to observe the situation from the dark. After all, there are countless martial arts stars and ordinary people behind us, and a single move can affect the whole body. Please forgive me. I've got all the answers I want to know, so I won't bother you anymore and take my leave. Xiao Xia had no intention of drinking and having fun. He turned back to the window and the window eaves opened automatically. He took out the translucent jade xiao made of white jade from his waist. He only heard the jade xiao vibrating to itself and making a pleasant sound. Under this overwhelming sound, there was no wind beside Xiao Xia, and he flew out of the window eaves out of thin air. He looked extraordinary. It wasn't until the person flew away that the woman in black robe, with almond-shaped eyes and peach cheeks, calmed down. This Xiao Xia deserves to be so famous, and he is quite energetic. Don't be pregnant. On this planet, Xiao Xia, in addition to his peak strength and temperament, also has a well-known love history. Countless girls have shed tears for him. Do you also want to be one of his love stories? It would be great if you are willing, as it will help me build a good relationship with the martial arts star of the Black God Department, and maybe the biggest crisis of trust will be lifted. Jia Yan was acting strangely around him, which made the black-robed woman furious. You man, why do you always have a dog's mouth but can't spit out ivory? That's all I am. Jia Yan shrugged, indicating that he really meant it. Dislike? If you don't like it, you can stay away. The woman in black robe got furious and soon calmed down. After all, for experts like them, whether they were angry or roaring, it was just some kind of catharsis of external emotions, and it was extremely simple to control it. Oh, I forgot something. Jia Yan suddenly patted his head, extremely annoyed. What's wrong? I forgot to ask Xiao Xia to come tomorrow to witness the birth of the leader of Taiguo's martial arts alliance. With his authority, our position as leader of the martial arts alliance can be considered. If you want beauty, just be a human being. Although the woman was not from Taiguo, she wanted to fight for Xiao Xia's injustice. Even if you challenge the three most powerful people to defeat them, now you still want them to endorse the power you have cultivated. This is too stupid. Forget it, more is the icing on the cake, less them is a lot. Jia Yan also knew that it was impossible to ask the three heroes to endorse them, otherwise Xiao Xia would not be secretive when he came, just for fear of being discovered by someone who wanted to think that the three heroes had already taken sides. That will lead to serious consequences. The next day passed. It was already 5 days since Jia Yan came to this martial arts star. As mentioned before, if the situation was not extremely critical and had far-reaching consequences, Jia Yan would not let the clones go out. The fact that he personally took action in this situation shows that things are by no means as simple as they appear on the surface. Sure enough, just that morning, when Jia Yan asked the envoys from various forces to come in groups to witness the birth of the first martial arts leader in the small town of Greenwater Beach, he received a message from notification information from other clones. There is a big problem on the front line. The white god-type army has entered a nearby planet. The black god-type troops stationed there may not be able to resist for long. Senior. After receiving the news that the Black God Department was losing ground in this war zone, a whisper came from the ear of the strong man Jia Yan. Jia Yan calmed down his emotions and focused on the young boatman who looked brighter in front of him. Oh no, at this point he should be called the martial arts leader. Yes, under Jia Yan's command just now, this young man, amid the congratulations of various martial arts ambassadors, finally entered the palace and became the martial arts leader that everyone envied. With the support of the black-robed messenger, no matter whether the young man had no name or no qualifications, all problems were no longer a problem. What do you want to say? Jia Yan asked calmly, regardless of what the young man had experienced just now. When Jia Yan glanced at him, the young man who had already become a master before his eyes still felt trembling all over for some reason. He knew that everything he had was given by the black-robed messenger. He could give it and take it back anytime and anywhere. He was just a puppet at best. Senior, I just want to say, thank you very much for your help, Senior, otherwise this villain would not be where he is today. It doesn't have to be like this. You have memorized so much of the information I gave you. It is considered a great achievement for your hard work. From now on, you will work hard for the Black Gods. There will be a day when you are worthy of the position of leader of the Martial Arts Alliance. Jia Yan waved his hand non-committally to tell him not to be so excited. Yes, but Senior, I just saw a man in white robes mixed in the crowd. I don't know who he is. The young boatman was a little cautious, speaking carefully for fear of causing Jia Yan's displeasure. Now that he had completely boarded the black-robed forces ship, he was very worried that this seemingly big ship might roll over at any time. Even if a small wave hit, the big ship would be fine, and it would be enough to lift a little grasshopper like himself away. Is that what you're asking? It's very simple. That person is just a spy sent by the white-robed forces to observe secretly. Spy? Has anyone ever seen a spy openly reveal his identity without even changing his clothes? The young man felt that it was a bit unbelievable, but when he thought about the forces in black and white robes, they were probably not as simple as ordinary forces, so he immediately shut up. Since the messenger said it didn't matter, then he should just pretend that it didn't matter. On this day, as long as the black-robed messenger in front of me is still there, it will not collapse. After sending away the frightened young boatman, Jia Yan continued to stare. Presumably before long, several team captains on the martial arts planet here will receive information about the small defeat on the front line. The situation between the entire black-robed forces and the white-robed forces will become tense, and the level of tension between the two sides will definitely reach another level. New peak. By then, the situation on this planet may have changed again. Fortunately, I got the position of the leader of the Martial Arts Alliance first. Since the white robe people were not aware of the changes in the front line, they thought that things could not be as radical as us, so they tolerated it a little. If they had known the information a long time ago, I am afraid that the ceremony of the leader of the Martial Arts Alliance would have been, "They will come to destroy it." Jia Yan turned his attention to the backs of the many people leaving after the ceremony. One of the white figures was so eye-catching that even the people around him did not consciously keep a distance from it. The fight between black and white has gradually become a well-known event on this martial arts planet. Now that the black robe has announced the new Taiguo Martial Arts Alliance leader, the white robe envoy has made a grand appearance. He is definitely not coming with the intention of sincere congratulations. Although the white robed messenger was leaving, God knows whether a conflict would break out between the two sides. Jia Yan locked his eyes on this person, and saw that this person seemed to have something in his heart. He turned around and looked at Jia Yan several hundred meters apart. There seemed to be sparks in the eyes of the two people, and they shot at each other in the air, bursting into flames. Where their eyes met, everyone looked like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Their faces turned extremely pale and they took a few steps back. They only felt that the eyes of the two envoys, black and white, were looking at each other, and there was a kind of conflict between them. The two people involved were nothing, but it made the outsiders collectively sweat. So strong. The two ambassadors, black and white, could burst out with such momentum just by meeting each other. How bold would it be if a formal fight broke out? Everyone looked ugly, and everyone was frightened, fearing that the two sides would really fight. After all, martial arts people are not like ordinary people and like to watch the excitement. They knew that the excitement of the strong should be underestimated. Back then, a war broke out between the three heroes, and a group of martial arts masters swarmed away. As a result, they were affected by the fighting force of the three top masters, causing heavy casualties. The three heroes are like this, let alone the battle between the black and white robed messenger who may be much stronger than the three heroes. When gods fight, mortals suffer. They are all prominent figures in the martial arts world, and they don't want to be trampled to death by a strong man like the flowers and plants on the roadside. What you up to? The strong man in white robe suddenly looked back, his eyes were like sharp blades, and his words were like blades cutting people, with a strong metallic sound. I don't want to do anything, but I just want to ask if your Bayesian family can make a verbal agreement with me. Jia Yan originally didn't want to confront the other party directly, but since people were looking back at him, it would be a bit bad not to say anything. Besides, he was so blessed that he really thought of something. It's okay to feel sick about the white god type. Verbal agreement? I see that you are not even a captain-level figure. Is the agreement you made valid? So what I said is a verbal agreement between you and me. It's up to you whether you listen or not. It's a shameless talk, however, I am interested in hearing what you have to say, please tell me. The power emanating from this white-robed messenger is astonishing. It is much stronger than the ones Jia Yan has seen before. Maybe he is the white-robed messenger who defeated the three heroes. The two sides are facing each other tit for tat, and their power is as vast as the abyss. Actually, it's nothing. My agreement is that you and I will not take the initiative to provoke and stimulate each other in the next 3 days. Naturally, there is no possibility of conflict between us. After all, I want to integrate. You have just gained power, and you must be doing something, right? Jia Yan is quite mysterious and speaks out what seems to be a reasonable agreement. Conclude an agreement with us not to attack each other. The white-robed messenger was startled suspiciously. With his intelligence, he would have sensed that Jia Yan was playing tricks. But no matter how much he thought about it, He never expected that Jia Yan could grasp the information faster than them. He must have already known that there were big changes on the front line. Do you want to implement that delaying strategy? It's not impossible. The Bai Shen sect, don't care how many martial arts leaders you wait for. 3 days is all it takes. It's okay to give you 3 days to breathe. Jia Yan had no expression on his face, but he was slightly happy in his heart. He said calmly, okay, these martial arts friends here are witnesses for you and me. Although this matter is a verbal agreement, it also has an agreement effect. If anyone between you and me violates this agreement, the other party has the right to kill the other party. Are you willing to agree with this? I'll kill you if I'm afraid you won't succeed. The white-robed messenger was probably stunned by Jia Yan's stimulation, or he was confident that a conflict would break out within 3 days, so he responded arrogantly. Okay, it's settled, I won't give it away. Jia Yan beat around the bush and made him agree to the verbal agreement, then turned around and immediately drove them away. Snort. The white-robed messenger thought to himself, you are really a dog. There was no sign of anger on his face, because being angry would fall into Jia Yan's plan. He turned around and flew up, quickly speeding up and out of sight. Why did you make this agreement with him? Jia Yan turned around and found that the woman in black robe had an eyebrow full of suspicion and her eyes were fixed on him. He already couldn't understand the operation of this strong man. Jia Yan kept it secret and said, please forgive me for keeping the secret for now. You will know the reason within 3 days. I hope your behavior is some kind of insight, otherwise I won't be able to explain it to the captain. The female black-robed woman thought about it. Originally, when they arrived at the martial arts star, they would not be able to fight with the white-robed messengers for the time being, so there was nothing wrong with not fighting for 3 days. They simply didn't ask so much and just needed to send Jia Yan's just do it as it is. As for whether the captain, who has the most wisdom in everything, would lose sleep because of this, that was none of her business. But after seeing Jia Yan's various weird and unexpected operations, she had a vague and unruly idea in her heart. That is, within 3 days, something big might happen. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2834. How can you agree to his ridiculous request? Why should we care so much? It's just a verbal agreement. Not to mention how many days I have been staying with the Black God system on this planet. If we have to fight early, how can we just start fighting casually in these 3 days? The stern-faced man in white robes from the White God Department returned to the headquarters of the White God Department in Taiguo. As expected, he encountered fierce criticism. However, he was unmoved and even wanted to laugh. Those who criticize others express helplessness. Leng Junbeipao was right. No matter what, it was just a verbal agreement between the two parties, and it had no written effect. In other words, even if they encountered a sudden change, they could shirk this oral agreement. They could understand the situation at that time. The two sides were competing with each other in full view of the public, and they mentioned this agreement in a hurry. Although I don't know what the purpose of the strong black robe was in coming up with this agreement, from the perspective of the white robes, this should be an agreement reluctantly made for the sake of face, in order to save some face of the Black God system? Let's let this matter go. In fact, I was worried about leaving this matter to you at first. Otherwise, I would defeat a strong indigenous man. God knows why the higher UPS love you so much. Some of the men in white robes thought to themselves, as if they were extremely resentful of the cold white robes. From this, it can be seen that the overt and covert fighting in the white robe group is fierce, to the extent that even ordinary middle-level workers have so much strife. The stern man in white robe smiled and said nothing. In short, he has completed this task, which is another achievement in the white God system. The envy, jealousy, and hatred of others towards him are nothing but trivial matters. When one day he becomes the captain of the one star, who will dare to point fingers at him? 3 days, to put it another way, even if there is any change within 3 days, we in black and white robes have to take action. What can he do to me? I have already taken action, am I still afraid of him? This man sneered in his heart. The next day, things were as before. The entire green water beach began to change. The county magistrate, who was an official of the imperial court, actually sent a guest for the first time. Although he was not a big shot, he was just a small detective, but his purpose revealed a certain message. The dignified court official actually submitted a letter of congratulations to the self-proclaimed martial arts leader of Lushuitan. This was like a bolt from the blue. There were countless forces around that were either neutral or stubbornly resisting. After hearing this, they seemed to have been struck by a hypnotic spell. On this martial arts planet, there are too many things that are prohibited by martial arts. Most of the imperial forces have many restrictions on the martial arts within the territory, and those who are close to threatening the imperial power, such as the martial arts leader, are without exception. It is strictly prohibited. Even if 2 or 3 countries agree to the similar existence and coexistence of martial arts leaders, it is definitely not that they think this matter can be tolerated. It is just that those so-called martial arts leaders have too strong power behind them and are too strong for the imperial power to check and balance, so they have to let go. Constraints. Unexpectedly, the Taiguo officials, who have extremely strict control over the martial arts forces, would agree to see the birth of the martial arts leader. But it's possible. Because behind this martial arts leader, there is someone who can easily defeat the 3 heroes. After all, they are the 3 heroes. If the 3 heroes want to serve as the leader of the martial arts alliance in any other world, or even the leader of the martial arts alliance on the entire planet, I am afraid that no country will dare to rebel against them. Now they are even more powerful than the 3 heroes. To support a so-called martial arts leader, who among them would dare to have any objections? Thank you to this official. Why don't you take a rest for a night at Green Water Beach? Although this place is a remote place, there are still a few specialty wines and dishes. The envoy is polite, but I have other fortifications to be busy with, so I won't eat. Next time if the envoy is free to go to the county seat, I will call all my colleagues and invite the envoy back. Then it's settled, let's see the guests off. Because of the easy communication with the head catcher, we quickly got through it in a harmonious atmosphere. The young man sitting in the position of the leader of the martial arts alliance felt terrified, fearing that he had done something wrong, which would cause the officials to feel bad about Lushuitan again. However, when he saw that Jia Yan was completely calm and composed, and his aura suppressed the head catcher, making him break into a cold sweat, he couldn't help but admire him secretly. At what level do I have to reach to be like this great man and be calm about everything? After Jia Yan sent the arrestor away, he immediately called the people from Lushuitan below. Did you do what I asked you to do? Lord Hui Bing, I'm done. Very well, then follow your orders. Jia Yan drove away the people in Green Water Beach, and the young man who was transformed from a boatman into a leader of the martial arts alliance came to the desk. The young man no longer dared to think too much. He was just a puppet and could only obey Jia Yan's orders. Even if he was smart, he didn't know how to resist. There was a huge difference in strength and status, so it would be more comfortable to just lie down and enjoy the glory and wealth as one's own puppet. Here, stamp it. Jia Yan asked the young man to use his martial arts leader's seal to stamp several documents. When the young man was stamping the seal, he secretly glanced at the document information, and soon his scalp became numb and his 2 limbs trembled. The order Jia Yan asked him to seal and sign was to form a martial arts army in the entire martial arts world of Tai Kingdom. And each document instructs a certain sect and a certain force to send out how many troops. This is no longer a secret move, but a blatant move, right? Can Taiguo tolerate it? Can the entire international community allow you to do such a thing? The young man was so frightened that he hesitated to speak several times, but when he looked up and saw Jia Yan's calm expression, he immediately gave up his idea of asking. They even beat up all the three heroes, and the martial arts leaders have mobilized, so why don't they just gather more troops? Nothing. So he had nothing to do, he was just a puppet on strings, just a stamp, he could still do such a small thing. The young man stamped the seal hard, but his back was numb and he didn't even read what was written on it. So far, Jia Yan has spent 5 or 6 days on this planet, but during these 5 or 6 days, he was racing against time. It's just that things spread faster than he did. Just as the documents stamped by the young man were like snowflakes, sent quickly to every sect and power through the hands of the courier summoned urgently by Greenwater Beach, the news in the starry sky was like a bolt from the blue. It came directly into the hands of the black and white forces on this planet. What? In the battle in the nearby starry sky, my black god sect was defeated? And the battle line spread to the vicinity of this martial arts star? This. The captain of the Taiguo branch of the Black God Department seemed to be under a restraining spell and was a little shaken. Don't look at the black-robed captain who is responsible for the affairs of a country, he is extremely glamorous. However, beneath this glamour, one needs to be responsible for the safety of dozens of subordinates below, as well as one's own safety. Every day, the captain is exhausted mentally and physically, trying to avoid possible confrontations, and then complete the mission as perfectly as possible. He has been doing this for more than a year, and every mission is considered to be a near miss, and is also called the safest mission. Team captain's name. However, this time, when he thought he could survive the mission safely, he suddenly discovered that the danger was approaching unknowingly. Everyone knows what will happen if the strength of the troops such as reconnaissance or frontline spies confronts the two forces head-on. The squad leader knows this. Although these elite lurking teams are called elite, their strength is only for outsiders. In fact, they are generally much weaker than the elites of the frontline troops. After all, frontline soldiers are under high tension all the time. Not only do they have to work hard during daily exercises, but more importantly, frontline soldiers often face life and death battles. As long as they can survive to cultivate to the level of venerables, they will probably have experienced hundreds of years. There must have been many battles and death battles. The same is true for the White God Department. Their frontline troops are not much worse than the Black God Department's frontline troops. Therefore, if this lurking team encounters the enemy's frontal troops, it will be like a wave hitting a rock, and it will be torn apart in an instant. He himself, including his subordinates, may not be able to save any one of them. Report it to my superiors and ask me to apply for transfer of the team, or to send elite troops to meet me. The captain no longer cared about whether his subordinates would ridicule him for his timidity, and repeatedly conveyed his requests to the person in charge of communications. The communications officer in black robe immediately followed the instructions. The waiting time is extremely anxious. However, what is even more worrying is that the answer they got was not what they expected. The overall efficiency of the Black God Department was not slow, and their request was quickly responded to. However, this response was worse than no response, because the news from above was disappointing to the captain. You are soldiers although you are lurking in the army, how can you retreat in such a battle situation? Moreover, our Black God Department has no time to take care of the martial arts star at this time and cannot mobilize personnel. This star is extremely important to our Black God Department, so at least within a few days, you and others will have to fight to defend this star, please understand. After listening to Shang Feng's voicemail, the team leader stepped back a few steps, feeling completely lost. You want me to wait and defend? Just rely on us lurking troops. He was stunned, feeling the cold air rising from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. This time it might be death. There was some despair inside him. The communication man in black robe beside him looked at the captain's reaction and felt that it was a little different from the captain in his previous impression. "Captain, why are you doing this? Although we are lurking troops, our combat power is definitely not weak. Otherwise, why are our lurking troops so important every time? Although we cannot compare with frontline elite soldiers, we are not as good as ordinary white gods. The troops of the department can still compete with one or two. Besides, the battle line has only advanced to the vicinity. If we really want to attack the Kuang martial arts star, I am afraid that the White God department will not be able to do so for the time being. So I am waiting for the enemies, and for the time being, those on the martial arts star will be the only ones. It's just white robes, with some scattered troops from the White God department at most, so we don't have to be so timid. What do you know?" The captain just felt that this subordinate was accustomed to going smoothly with him, and completely forgot about the cruelty and danger of the battlefield. "You underestimate the front-line warriors. The front-line warriors of the White God system are not much different from those of the Black God system. No matter what, we are not on the front line. You don't understand how to fight in a battlefield environment, and I am not familiar with it either. Let's put it this way, if the other party sends a team to assist the white robes on this planet, even if all the members are weaker than me and others on the front line, in a battlefield environment, one-on-one, we and others may not be able to do. You understand what I mean by being able to defeat them? If our small team needs to participate in the war, even if our entire army is not wiped out, heavy casualties are unavoidable." Well. The communication black robe was stunned. He was reluctant to believe it. Was it such an exaggeration? I and others are not weak, so why is the captain so unsure of himself? He was still a little unconvinced. But the captain no longer cares about this person and goes to arrange things urgently. Since the command of the striker cannot be changed, he can only make as complete arrangements as possible, otherwise he will suffer too much losses later, and even get himself into trouble, or the worst is to die on the front line, which would be too despairing. He is already a well-known front-line survival expert, and he is well known for his lurking work on the front line of the Black Gods. If he dies in this war, it will be regrettable not only for him, but also for many people. What should we do? There must be variables in this matter. If there are no variables, it will probably be bad if we face the enemy directly. The captain's face was ashen. As for the White God department, they also obtained information at this time. The expressions of some of the people who were originally beaming changed immediately. Yesterday, the cold-faced guy made a verbal agreement with people from the Black God system not to make a move for 3 days. What should we do now? The messengers in white robes who had a bad relationship with Leng Jun white robes came to Shiyuan and spoke out one after another. That was an agreement he made with the Black God sect, and this agreement was verbal and had nothing to do with our White God section. Yes, what does our White God sect have to do with him? Now that the battle in the starry sky is beneficial to our side, those scoundrels of the Black God sect must be preparing to escape, and we must take this opportunity to drag them to death. These black robes are not very strong in frontal combat, but if they escape and move to other fronts to engage in lurking work, they are no less harmful than the front-line soldiers of the Black Gods. Captain, make a decision immediately. Many white robes didn't know that the Black God department had issued an order to stay, asking them to go up to the peak and go to the base of the black robe messengers. Even if they couldn't kill all the black robes, they still had to hold them back. Presumably, the frontal army of the White God department would arrive soon. Everyone, please be patient. I'm going to discuss it with the other captains and the captain. I will convey your requests to the captain and the others. I believe the higher UPS will come up with a plan that satisfies everyone. The captain of the Taiguo White Robe team worked non-stop, sending messages to the captains of other countries and the captain in charge of the entire martial arts star. His attitude is normal, that is, he needs orders from his superiors, otherwise he will not make his own judgment. This is the most basic quality of a soldier. From the beginning to the end, the captain never mentioned the 3-day appointment. He must have dismissed this matter as a fart and ignored it. No one would think that when the war entered the White God sect and was about to be overwhelmed by the army, the strong man in black robe would dare to think about such a verbal agreement with no rules and binding force. However, you are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2835. The captain sent a message that the front line is in emergency. Okay, I understand. This is an emergency on the front line, aren't you nervous? In the Green Water Beach, the female in black robe who came to Jia Yan's residence in a hurry early in the morning looked at Jia Yan angrily. She just felt that Jia Yan was so smart that he was not even nervous about such a big thing. It's not just a matter of war, the war there is likely to spread here and threaten their lives. Are you not nervous about this? Are you careless? Don't be nervous. Oh, by the way, if those people in white robes think they have won outside and want to take action on this star, I will pursue the issue of the last verbal agreement. Jia Yan seemed to have remembered the verbal agreement. The female black robe's whole body was in bad shape. How long has it been? Do you care about this insignificant thing? But Jia Yan said it seriously, as if she was right, and she didn't know how to refute it. Forget it, as long as you're happy. The woman was helpless. She had already roughly understood Jia Yan's temper and ability to talk. She felt that if she struggled with Jia Yan on this issue, Jia Yan would make her angry to death with roundabout excuses, so she might as well give up. Well, I believe I will be very happy before long. Jia Yan smiled secretly. This smile made the enchanting black-robed woman's hair stand on end. She, who was a little familiar with Jia Yan, felt that someone was going to be unlucky. The reaction of the Bayesian system is quite rapid. Indeed, he is worthy of belonging to the front-line establishment, and his keen sense of war is quite amazing. After receiving the intelligence in the morning, we immediately discussed a response strategy in the afternoon. The white-robed forces and teams on the entire martial arts planet began to make moves. The White God Department tells us to give up all the territory of the martial arts star, otherwise we will be killed without mercy. The black-robed men in Taiguo quickly received the notice from the white-robed men, and all of them were frightened for a while. The reaction of the White God Department was quick. They had just received the information and had no time to make more preparations. Unexpectedly, the opponent was already coming. Don't worry, this matter is not urgent. The front-line troops of the White Gods are still far away from here. The white-robed men on this planet are simply not enough to crush us. Yes, if they have enough strength to crush us, they won't wait until now to take action. What we have to do is to hold on and send letters to ask for reinforcements. As for the fearful black gods, all of them had sad faces. They had no choice but to continue working hard with the people in white robes to see if they could buy some more time. They couldn't leave, and they would definitely suffer heavy casualties if they didn't leave. You said they were melancholy or not? Fortunately, the group of people in white robes did not dare to start a war easily. At least on this planet, it is impossible for the white-robed ones to win against the black-robed ones without support. It is still unclear who is stronger and who is weaker on this planet. But the aggressive posture of the men in white robes is quite clear. Report: the Taiguo side attack forces have stated that they want to surrender to the man in white robe. The Tehi temple near the capital also said that it had reached an agreement with the white-robed men to attack and defend each other. Shocking news comes from the outside world from time to time, making people panic. This martial arts planet is said to be extremely closed, but to say that they are really isolated from the outside starry sky is not a big deal. Those big forces all have the venerable level. It is still possible to send a few out to gather information and understand aliens. Especially after the black and white robes came to this planet and defeated the three heroes, they even more an extremely strong desire to explore the outside world. As a result, many top powerhouses went out, including spies from various major forces. At this time, news came that the White God sect had defeated the Black God sect outside. This group of people did not know that this earth-shattering battle was just a battle between a certain front of the Black God section. They also thought that the Black God sect was in a doomed situation, so they immediately responded to the news and let their sect's forces know the news as early as possible. Make a decision. As a result, the Bayesian system had not been able to open up the situation for a long time, but somehow it got better. As for the Black Gods, they instantly became extremely disadvantaged. Even the Green Water beach side was affected. A large number of forces either had spies personally transmitting information from the outside world, or they shared the information from other sects. The men in black robes are gone. Do you want to rebel? The incident sparked unrest. In the seemingly peaceful martial arts world of Tai Kingdom, and even on the entire martial arts planet, doubts arose about the men in black robes. Is the situation for these men in black robes over? Do you want to take sides now? Of course, there are not that many forces that have defected yet. Most of the forces are still waiting and watching. It is impossible for the big sects to make an instant decision. After all, it is too extreme for the forces to be shaken so easily. It has long since disappeared in the long river of history. But it was true that the men in black robes were frightened, and there was also a lot of vacillation among the personnel. If the war hadn't started yet, there might have been individual escapees among the black robes. After all, cultivation is not easy. The black robes are all masters of strength. It would be difficult for them to stick to the front line and fight with fewer people. After the preparations on the first day, the men in white robes finally took official action on the second day, which was the third day of victory on the front line. The headquarters of several black-robed men were surrounded by subordinate forces sent by the White God Department. White Gods, what are you going to do? Especially in the capital of Tai Kingdom, the captain of the Black God Department is very smart and talented, causing the White God Department to suffer a lot overtly and covertly. Today they behaved even more aggressively, and they were likely to fight if they disagreed. The white-robed captain stood proudly outside the headquarters gate with an unwavering expression on his face. The many men in black robes around him were different from his maturity, and their faces showed a little uneasiness and confusion. But the white robes of the White God Department who came were all in a state of triumph, leading many masters from various sects around them to show off their power. Both sides know that the martial arts masters on the planet do not pose much of a threat to each other, and those top masters may not necessarily fight to the death with the men in black robes wholeheartedly, but this is enough to be the last straw that breaks the camel's back. Around the men in black robes, there were not many loyal forces who dared to help. At least in this area of the capital, the forces that have taken refuge in the Black God system are afraid to come. The forces that were notified yesterday also used various reasons, such as a senior member of the sect being seriously ill, or a senior expert passing away. When a junior got married, the boss even gave reasons such as having diarrhea. In short, 2 words, I won't come. This situation is not unexpected. Those of the Black God sect, you have been thinking about how to get me, the White God sect, to leave this planet all day long. Now that the trees have fallen and the housens are scattered, you should know that the situation is not good for you and others. How about this, you withdraw voluntarily to save the rest of us? The latent personnel bled and died for no reason. As for the White God type, the captain still has some personal charm. He talks clearly, and he also gives the Black God type enough face. In this world, the black and white gods are the top existences. Except for the gods, everyone on both sides will respect each other to a certain extent, because respecting the other party is respecting oneself in disguise. Do you want to gain control of this planet without losing any blood? You guys from the White God family have a pretty good idea, but do you think this is possible? The black-robed captain shook his head. In fact, he also wants to leave. Yesterday at the captain-level meeting, he strongly advocated that we leave first and leave the subsequent battle for the planet to the large forces. However, they encountered ruthless rebuttal from several young and strong factions. Moreover, the top leader in this war zone, the main combat faction Black Tiger God of War, requires that the front line be as aggressive as possible, so they cannot retreat. Even if he wanted to leave in his heart, he couldn't say it in front of the enemy. Impossible? Anyway, so you Black God sect wants to resist? Let me tell you, our White God sect is extremely powerful and has countless masters. Your Black God sect is doomed to fail. I feel you are a talent. If you are willing to switch to my White God sect, I will immediately arrange for you to transform your power. The captain of the White God department threw out a very attractive bait. In the dual system of black and white, because the power is almost integrated into the world itself, both sides think of the transformation method of power. People with the White God system can transform into the Black God system, and people with the Black God system can transform into the White God system. Therefore, surrender often happens. Trying to lure me into surrender? Do you think that's possible? The captain of the Black God department smiled lightly. Transformation is possible, even for a venerable person like him, but the effect of transformation cannot be guaranteed. He will fall sharply, and his lifelong understanding will be in the Black God system, which shows that even if the transformation is extremely perfect, and once it reaches the starry sky level, it will never be possible to reach a higher realm. And the other key point is that he has spent his whole life in the area ruled by the Black God system, and his family and life memories are all in the territory of the Black God system. Under such circumstances, is there anyone who is really willing to abandon everything and go to another place where it is difficult to develop hostile force? Not to mention that in general, those who surrender and transform are unlikely to be welcomed by the other party's forces. They are definitely the target of ostracism and ridicule. Therefore, not many people actually choose the options that seem attractive. Come to Cheateon.com to subscribe, and you will be able to see this chapter after refreshing the original version. Both parties know that the martial arts masters on the planet do not pose much of a threat to each other, and those top masters may not necessarily fight wholeheartedly with the Black Robe. Fight to the death, but this is enough to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Around the man in black robes, there were not many loyal forces who dared to help. At least in this area of the capital, the forces that have taken refuge in the Black God system are afraid to come. The forces that were notified yesterday also used various reasons, such as a senior member of the sect being seriously ill, or a senior expert passing away. When a junior got married, the boss even gave reasons such as having diarrhea. In short, 2 words, I won't come. This situation is not unexpected. Those of the Black God sect, you have been thinking about how to get me, the White God sect, to leave this planet all day long. Now that the trees have fallen and the horizons are scattered, you should know that the situation is not good for you and others. How about this, you withdraw voluntarily to save the rest of us? The latent personnel bled and died for no reason. As for the White God type, the captain still has some personal charm. He talks clearly, and he also gives the Black God type enough face. In this world, the Black and White gods are the top existences. Except for the gods, everyone on both sides will respect each other to a certain extent, because respecting the other party is respecting oneself in disguise. Do you want to gain control of this planet without losing any blood? You guys from the White God family have a pretty good idea, but do you think this is possible? The black-robed captain shook his head. In fact, he also wants to leave. Yesterday at the captain level meeting, he strongly advocated that we leave first and leave the subsequent battle for the planet to the large forces. However, they encountered ruthless rebuttal from several young and strong factions. Moreover, the top leader in this war zone, the main combat faction Black Tiger God of War, requires that the front line be as aggressive as possible, so they cannot retreat. Even if he wanted to leave in his heart, he couldn't say it in front of the enemy. Impossible? Anyway, so you Black God sect wants to resist? Let me tell you, our White God sect is extremely powerful and has countless masters. Your Black God sect is doomed to fail. I feel you are a talent. If you are willing to switch to my White God sect, and I will immediately arrange for you to transform your power. The captain of the White God department threw out a very attractive bait. In the dual system of black and white, because the power is almost integrated into the world itself, both sides think of the transformation method of power. People with the White God system can transform into the Black God system, and people with the Black God system can transform into the White God system. Therefore, surrender often happens. Trying to lure me into surrender? Do you think that's possible? The captain of the Black God department smiled lightly. Transformation is possible, even for a venerable person like him, but the effect of transformation cannot be guaranteed. He will fall sharply, and his lifelong understanding will be in the Black God system, which shows that even if the transformation is extremely perfect, and once it reaches the starry sky level, it will never be possible to reach a higher realm. And the other key point is that he has spent his whole life in the area ruled by the Black God system, and his family and life memories are all in the territory of the Black God system. Under such circumstances, is there anyone who is really willing to abandon everything and go to another place where it is difficult to develop hostile force? Not to mention that in general, those who surrender and transform are unlikely to be welcomed by the other party's forces. They are definitely the target of ostracism and ridicule. Therefore, not many people actually choose the options that seem attractive. Come to Cheateon.com to subscribe, and you will be able to see this chapter after refreshing the official version. And the other key point is that he has spent his whole life in the area governed by the Black God system, and his family and life memories are all in the territory of the Black God system. How about this situation? Are there really people who are willing to abandon everything and go to other hostile forces where it is difficult to develop? Not to mention that in general, those who surrender and transform are unlikely to be welcomed by the other party's forces. They are definitely the target of ostracism and ridicule. Therefore, not many people actually choose the options that seem attractive. Come to Cheateon.com to subscribe, and you will be able to see this chapter after refreshing the original version. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2836. Without much thought, the white-robed captain blurted out his words. If you wait for a verbal agreement, it will not have the effect of rules. He has no choice. In other circumstances, in other places, he might not care about this matter. Whoever made an agreement with the strong black robe in the sky will be responsible. In short, his white robe team will not care about this matter. Even if the white robe next to him is really killed. If he is killed, how he responds depends on the superior's decision, rather than directly confronting him. However, at this moment and here, he cannot sit back and watch. Because of the current situation, it is his white robe team that is demonstrating, and he may soon bring a large number of local power experts to besiege the black robe team of the Black God Department Taiguo. If he doesn't even deal with the threat of an ordinary black-robed person, and even sits back and watches the white-robed person next to him being killed because of a verbal agreement, why does he still want people to win over him? Impossible. So he must take care of this matter. Even if he could win the battle by letting the white robe and the strong black robe around him fight, he couldn't just sit back and watch this happen. The minimum statement must be made. Oh? Are you saying that it doesn't have the effect of rules? In other words, you are a member of the white god system. You agree to what I do in front of everyone, but you want to go back on your word. The captain in white robe felt a pain in his head. Buzzing. Well, he was confronting the black-robed captain of the Thai kingdom, and he felt he had the upper hand. Unexpectedly, this idiot slipped out of nowhere, and started to fight with him wantonly. He looked much more arrogant than the black-robed captain. He looked back at the black-robed captain, and saw that the man had a gloomy face, and his eyes were wandering back and forth between the strong black-robed man in the sky and himself, but he did not speak. How did this captain become a captain? He didn't do his job at all, okay. Regarding the behavior of the black-robed captain, the white-robed captain almost went to the Black God Department to sue him for dereliction of duty. But that's not possible. Yes, the white-robe team, want to go back on my promise. What can you do? The white-robed captain ignored some local people behind him and pointed, holding his breath and watching the strong black-robed man in the sky. His body was filled with energy, preparing for a fierce battle. He also knew about this black robe. He defeated the three heroes and caused a lot of trouble in the Thai kingdom, causing them a lot of trouble in white robes. No matter in terms of force value or intelligence, he is not an easy character to deal with. Jia Yan was suspended in the sky and nodded when he heard the words. A calm look. Very good. As expected, you, the white god, are still so unfaithful to your promise. I work in the white god department, and you, a little black robe, can't control it. The white-robed captain became furious when he saw Jia Yan being so arrogant and directly talking about the entire Bayesian system. What a behemoth the white god department is, and how dare a mere black robe control it? Before he finished speaking, he felt a strong wind blowing around him. Puff. There was a sound like tearing cloth from behind, and he looked back in shock. He was horrified to find that the fighting subordinate behind him, who was still frightened just now, was cut into pieces by the sword that appeared at an unknown time. Two halves. You. Even though the white-robed captain was a well-informed person, he could not remain calm and composed under such a sudden change. He looked up at the sky like a turbulent wave. The strong black-robed man was still making chopping movements with the ghost-headed sword in his hand. It could be seen that the sword attack just now came from the ghost-headed sword. I'm sorry, since your friends from the White God sect are unwilling to fulfill their promises, I have no choice but to do it myself. You have not made an agreement with me, but if you want to fight with my Black God sect, it means that you and I are enemies, so I have no choice but to fight against you. You took a strategic approach. Jia Yan put the ghost-head sword back into its scabbard without any distractions, and still spoke calmly. Including the white-robed captain, all the white-robed captains who swarmed to the black-robed headquarters felt the roar of the waves. They looked at the white-robed master, who was divided into two parts. Due to his strong body, the white-robed master was still struggling, and the cold air came from the soles of his feet. Rising up, I felt like I was looking up at the tall mountain towards the strong man in black robe. The white-robed master is no ordinary character. He is powerful enough to compete for the position of captain. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to defeat one of the three heroes. But such a master, in the hands of the strong black robe, couldn't even move away, as if a child with no strength was killed by one move. Well done, everyone. The white-robed forces are nothing more than this. Are you still willing to follow them? It's too late to turn back now. We will fight next. You don't need to switch sides, just watch the battle from the sidelines. The black-robed captain was excited at this moment. Years of strategizing experience told him that now was a good time. He jumped out and angrily scolded the local forces who followed the white-robed team. The groups of followers of the Bai force suddenly came to their senses one by one. They were frightened by the blow of the black-robed master's ghost-headed sword. Looking at the white-robed messengers, their faces were also filled with fear. It can be seen that the strong black-robed men in the sky were extremely powerful in the eyes of the local masters. For the white-robed messengers, they are also masters beyond imagination. In this case, how could they dare to follow the white-robed forces blindly? It's not a deep relationship, and there's no need to be loyal. Groups of local power masters stopped moving forward one by one, while some quietly retreated backwards. Those of the black gods, don't push yourself too far, we don't know who will win. The white-robed captain was so angry that he jumped up in the air and shot at the black-robed captain. You guys, hold down that guy in the sky. Wait until my captain has dealt with the black-robed captain, and then you can help from the side. Several envoys in the white-robe team looked at each other, almost scolding each other. You are as timid as a mouse. You know that the most difficult person to deal with is the mysterious black robe in the sky, but you actually leave him alone and go to face off against the captain in black robe? However, what the white-robed captain did was in line with normal operations. Usually when this kind of battle started, it was king versus king, so the captain level naturally went to the captain level. As for the strong black robe in the sky, he won't say that he doesn't know this guy's background yet and doesn't want to take risks. The will of the black god, move forward bravely. On the black god department side, the black-robed captain roared a pre-war slogan, and his whole face glowed with black yin energy, which was some kind of secret combat method of the black god department. Now that the war has begun, we will no longer pursue peace. Besides, the mysterious and strong black robe has helped us avoid the possibility of being besieged by local masters as much as possible. It would be too embarrassing for them to dare not fight like this. Point. A group of black robes behind them burst out with powerful momentum. For a moment, the world seemed to be full of demons dancing. The strength of each black robe and white robe greatly exceeded the imagination of the local strong men, which immediately made them silent and dumbfounded. Those who can come to the front line to lurk and persuade the natives to surrender are not necessarily the top masters of the two major gods. However, they have a typical characteristic, that is, they are not too weak, at least not as good as the front line troops, and they may also collide with the ground level. To the situation of these two teams, at least they start at the starry sky level, and they have the god-level secrets taught by both gods. If they really fight, the venerable level on the ordinary planet may not be able to beat the top starry sky level in the black and white robe team. Clang! A thin sword was blocked in front of a strong man in white robes. There were several more white-robed masters than black-robed masters. Originally, one black-robed master was about to be attacked by another white-robed master who had his hands free, but the owner of the rapier saved him. The man in black robe was shocked, looked at the one who helped him, and said with tears of gratitude, "Thank you very much." The assistant replied solemnly in a clear female voice, "No, be careful. This is the woman in black robe who was monitoring Jia Yan at Greenwater Beach. She was going to monitor Jia Yan's every move at Greenwater Beach today as usual, but she found that Jia Yan's face moved slightly and flew directly towards the capital of Taiguo. What did she think at that time? And then he chased after him. After arriving at the place, I found that as expected, the place was being raided by people from the White God Department. Fortunately, they arrived in time. That guy is a bit too strong." There was a hint of surprise on the King Guaqingqing's face. She originally thought that when Jia Yan and she came to this battlefield, they could at most play a role of assistance. Unexpectedly, before she arrived, the strong man made a big noise and even led the entire battlefield. Radical change. However, she didn't dare to think too much. Her strength was only at the top of the starry sky, and she belonged to the lower middle class in this battlefield. If she was not careful, she would lose her fortune, and she might even die. On the battlefield, it doesn't matter whether you are a beauty or not. If you die, you are truly dead. Boom. In the center of the venue, The most eye-catching battlefield was naturally where Jia Yan faced a circle of white-robed masters who were attacking him. I saw Jia Yan pull out the ghost-headed sword again, vigorously sway away someone's attack, and then go straight forward, easily crushing the magic attack fired by the other person. Very good. If you are waiting to besiege me, it shows that you, the white god type, are shameless people. Come on, don't be afraid. Although Jia Yan was fighting alone, he became more and more courageous as he fought. He used the ghost head sword to a superb level, and it looked like he was able to break out of the encirclement of several great masters. Everyone around him couldn't help but gasp. This is a bit too fierce. You must know that those who are besieging are all venerable level. If there is a fight, even the masters of the lower venerable level may not be able to gain the upper hand from them. Is it possible that this strong black robe is invincible from some black god type? But that's not right either. There are only so many black god type invincible realms, far fewer than white god type invincible realms. Everyone can remember the general appearance of the black god type invincible realm. I have never heard of such a guy. As Jia Yan clashed with several great masters, the buildings in the capital where they were located quickly became a mess. Inside the Taiguo Palace, when the two sides were fighting, there were 7 or 8 venerable level auras that emerged. This was the royal family's most precious power to control the country. They originally wanted to be a peacemaker as much as possible when the two sides started fighting. If they found out the royal family is stronger than the black and white robes, and may even do some tough things, such as driving them out of Taiguo directly. But since the war between the black and white elements began, and the wave of terror swept across the earth, the 7 or 8 noble auras in the royal family suddenly came and went quickly. They returned to the palace one by one, raised their strength, and died. He fought to the death against the aftermath of the past battle, not even daring to fart. I can't help it. I haven't seen the group of people fighting on the ground. Are they all monsters? They felt that if they came out to fight one-on-one, they might not be able to defeat the star-level masters from the two major gods, let alone those at the venerable level. What's more, in the central battle circle during the battle, the strong black-robed man was single-handedly outnumbered. He was indeed able to easily defeat the 3 heroes with his own strength. The national-level masters in the royal family felt that, this guy could kill 7 or 8 of them in one pot with one strike, and there would be no problem. The fight between gods is. I can't control it, I dare not control it. It's better to just be a coward. Those who can come to the front line to lurk and persuade the natives to surrender are not necessarily the top masters of the two major gods. However, they have a typical characteristic, that is, they are not too weak, at least not as good as the front line troops, and they may also collide with the ground level. To the situation of these two teams, at least they start at the starry sky level, and they have the god level secrets taught by both gods. If they really fight, the venerable level on the ordinary planet may not be able to beat the top starry sky level in the black and white robe team. Clang! A thin sword was blocked in front of a strong man in white robes. There are a few more white-robed masters than black-robed masters. Originally, a black-robed master was about to be attacked by another white-robed master who had his hands free, but the owner of this rapier saved him. The man in black robe was shocked, looked at the one who helped him, and said with tears of gratitude, "Thank you very much." The assistant replied solemnly in a clear female voice, "No, be careful. This is the woman in black robe who was monitoring Jia Yan at Greenwater Beach. She was going to monitor Jia Yan's every move at Greenwater Beach today as usual, but she found that Jia Yan's face moved slightly and flew directly towards the capital of Taiguo. What did she think at that time? And then he chased after him. After arriving at the place, I found that as expected, the place was being raided by people from the White God Department. Fortunately, they arrived in time. That guy is a bit too strong. There was a hint of surprise on the King Guaqingqing's face. She originally thought that when Jia Yan and she came to this battlefield, they could at most play a role of assistance. Unexpectedly, before she arrived, the strong man made a big noise and even led the entire battlefield. Radical change. However, she didn't dare to think too much. Her strength was only at the top of the starry sky, and she belonged to the lower middle class in this battlefield. If she was not careful, she would lose her fortune, and she might even die. On the battlefield, it doesn't matter whether you are a beauty or not. If you die, you are truly dead. Boom. In the center of the venue, the most eye-catching battlefield was naturally where Jia Yan faced a circle of white-robed masters who were attacking him. I saw Jia Yan pull out the ghost-headed sword again, vigorously sway away someone's attack, and then go straight forward, easily crushing the magic attack fired by the other person. Very good. If you wait to besiege me, it shows that you, the Bai Shen family, are shameless people. Come on, don't be afraid. Although Jia Yan fought alone, he became more and more courageous as he fought. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2837. But before the winner can be decided, this prosperous capital city will fall apart, causing heavy casualties. That is something that neither side can bear. Now that the two major gods are at an important juncture, with such a massacre, it will have extremely bad effects if the neutral forces turn to the enemy, or simply do nothing. Humph, you capricious people. If you want to beat me, it's you who will beat me. If you don't, it's you who won't beat me. Do you think I, the Black God, are easy to bully? The black-robed captain seemed to be responding aggressively, but the attacking movements in his hands suddenly stopped. Everyone, stop it. This place is not suitable for long-term fighting. Next time, we will fight these guys to the death. As the captain in black robe spoke out, the faces of both warring parties changed, and they stopped fighting in unison. Finally, everyone turned their attention to the sky burning with blazing flames. There, 5 or 6 people were besieging a man holding a ghost-headed sword. However, the situation in the battle was not that the man was at a disadvantage as everyone imagined. On the contrary, the man actually threw out his unruly sword and knocked away many enemies who were close to him one by one. Not only was no one able to cause harm to him, it even caused several people to be bloody and unstable, and they were obviously severely injured. This black robe, why don't you stop? The white-robed captain shouted loudly. Jia Yan glanced at this person from the corner of his eye, and smiled vaguely. The ghost-headed sword in his hand slashed again, and the person in white robe who invaded beside him was completely slashed back half a step. Raise the sword high again. You dare. The white-robed captain naturally saw what Jia Yan wanted to do, and shouted in shock and anger. However, it wasn't the roar that could not stop Jia Yan's moves. He saw the ghost-headed sword falling with lightning speed, and was caught off guard, directly cutting the white-robed master into 2 pieces. The man on the spot died, and his body fluttered in the strong wind and fell to the ground below. Among the ruins. Oh! Is there a truce? Sorry, my ears are not very good. Under the almost cannibalistic gaze of the white-robed captain and others, Jia Yan calmly put away the ghost-headed sword. Before sheathing it, he shook off the blood on the blade. Your Majesty, you are so brave. We have ordered a ceasefire, but you still dare to commit murder with a knife. The white-robed captain's eyes turned red and he stared at Jia Yan, almost glaring him to death with his eyes. That's my hat. I'm not your white god type. My black-robed captain didn't say anything about me. Is it your turn? Otherwise, the white-robed captain doesn't like me. Why don't we have a good time? Enmity, I'll be waiting here. If you challenge me in a duel, I will never run away. None of us will complain until we die. Do you dare to come? Jia Yan is extremely arrogant. Reckless man, you have such a person in the Black God department, and you simply have no regard for the overall situation. This black-robed captain, do you still want to make peace? The white-robed captain was speechless for a moment. Instead of facing Jia Yan's provocation head-on, he turned around and accused the black-robed captain angrily. The black-robed captain couldn't help but frown. How dare I, a black-robed captain, be more bullied than that strong man in your eyes, and you dare not fight him, so you came to me. White God sect, don't talk nonsense to me. You were the one who told us to stop, but now we, the Black God sect, are taking the initiative to make peace? There's no need to be so messy. If you want to fight, just have another one. Yes, I will see the real chapter under my hands. Jia Yan intervened at the right time from behind, and the ghost-headed sword automatically rubbed in the scabbard, as if it was unbearably thirsty and the blood just now was not enough to satisfy it. The faces of the men in white robes all trembled. It is true that this strong man in black robe is arrogant, but he has the capital and is too strong. At least on his side, except for the captain who might use a few moves against him, everyone else was in vain. The world is getting worse. There are too many domineering people in the Black God system, from the Black Tiger War God to these black robes below. However, their strength is astonishing, so how can they in white robes fool around? The white-robed captain's face jumped wildly. He simply ignored Jia Yan's provocation and stared directly at the black-robed captain. Your Excellency, I am waiting for you to come to your black-robed department. This may be a misunderstanding. Everyone will be wrong about each other as you wish. Why don't we just let this matter go for today, and we will discuss peace matters tomorrow? The black-robed captain stroked his long beard and looked at Jia Yan, who fell from the sky to the ground. Jia Yan understood what he meant, nodded secretly and said, "Don't misunderstand me, you and the white robes are just here to destroy my black robes today. If you can't beat me, you want to run away. How can there be such a reason in the world?" The white-robed captain was so disgusted by him that he directly targeted Jia Yan with a hateful expression. "Sir, are you done? Since just now, you have been interfering with my captain's conversation with your captain. You are just an ordinary black robe, and you have no place to interrupt here. I'm sorry, my friend the white-robed captain, your information is a bit out of date. This black-robed captain is already the vice-captain of this team, so he is qualified to participate in our negotiations. The captain in black robe killed people and stabbed him in the back. The white-robed captain felt sick as if he had eaten shit. Then he looked at the black-robed captain and asked, when did he become your vice-captain? Just now, I thought this person could be of great use, so I personally appointed him as the vice-captain. The white-robed captain thought to himself, you can simply say that the appointment was made in your mind. If you want to make me feel embarrassed, just say so. But disgusting is really disgusting. The white-robed captain found that not only the strong black-robed man was disgusting, but starting from the strong black-robed man, their captain, and other black-robed team members also made him sick. Take a deep breath. The white-robed captain knew that these black-robed men were trying to make him lose his sense of proportion. To be really angry would be like being tricked. There was originally no difference in combat power between the two sides, but the appearance of the strong black robe tilted the balance. Therefore, it is not right to start a war now, and the only option is to seek peace as much as possible. No need to talk so much nonsense. Tell me what price I, the white robe, need to pay. Don't open your mouth like a lion. You know, there is far more than just our white robe team on this planet. After all, the white-robed captain was a captain. After being confused for a moment, he calmed down and made his final concession. We don't ask for much. You white-robed forces triggered a war and killed a large number of innocent people in the capital of Taiguo. Now we suspect that you will cause similar casualties again, so we want you to withdraw from the capital and major cities in Taiguo. Are you willing? The black-robed captain remained calm and made his request. Jia Yan was not far away and couldn't help but praise him secretly. This is a good request. Directly asking the white robe forces to withdraw from the Tai Kingdom is obviously not possible. There are still many white robe forces outside the Tai Kingdom, and their frontline troops have already reached the vicinity. Their advantage is still huge, so the main thing to fight for is the white robe forces. Exit the major cities in Taiguo. From this point of view, the white-robed envoys did not make any big concessions. They actually gave up major cities, which was no different from giving up the Tai Kingdom. Because the black and grey forces were almost completely eaten away by Jia Yan's martial arts alliance forces, it would be difficult for the white robes to achieve anything if they went to outside sects. After thinking for a moment, the white-robed captain seemed to have thought of something. He sighed deeply again and nodded without changing his expression. I agree to your request, is that okay? Okay, the white-robed captain is really quick to talk. You can take the people away. I won't stand in the way again. The black-robed captain didn't want to make any profit. He also understood why the white-robed captain so readily agreed to his unreasonable request. In fact, no matter how exaggerated concessions the white-robed captain promised, it was actually nothing. Because the fundamental reason for the fight between the two sides is that the war in the outer starry sky has spread to the martial arts star. What can the white-robed envoys do even if they give up the interests of Taiguo? When the White God Department's frontline troops advance here, even if the black-robed envoys occupy the entire Tai Kingdom, they will have no choice but to flee in despair, or they can stay here and fight to the death with the enemy's frontline troops, and the result will only be death. The white-robed captain understood this, so he acted decisively. However, the white-robed captain put on a plain smile and nodded at all the white-robed people who came here, leaving them dejected and grouped together. When they left the headquarters of the black-robed messengers, the strong black-robed master suddenly had a new behavior. Bang! Another master next to the white-robed captain was attacked by the ghost-headed sword for no apparent reason. Unprepared, the master was shocked. He had witnessed Jia Yan's offensive just now, and knew that even if he was prepared, it would be difficult to resist the strong man's sword, not to mention that it was almost a sneak attack now. Under everyone's disbelief, Jia Yan cut the man with a knife until he was bleeding profusely. Seeing that the wound was life-threatening, he couldn't live anymore. The fighting spirit in the white-robed captain's eyes was revived, and a ball of white magic light burst out, trying to push Jia Yan away. However, this magical light was chopped into pieces by the surging black power of the ghost-head sword, and it did not pose a threat at all. The white-robed captain felt his eyes almost splitting. On the one hand, he was shocked by the power of this black-robed master. On the other hand, he was very angry because this always aggressive black-robed man killed his own personnel again. Is this person still messing around? Why are you slaughtering our troops again? Do you think you are invincible? The white-robed captain's fists clenched in anger, and his eyes were all blood red. I was bullied so badly. He had never experienced such deep anger since he became the white-robed captain. Don't be angry, I have a legitimate reason. Jia Yan smiled gently and flicked the ghost-headed sword again, and put the sword back into its sheath, but no one would believe his action of sheathing the sword anymore, because he had done this action so many times today, and every time the sword would come out again. The scabbard hurts people and simply goes back on their word. However, his expression didn't look that ferocious, instead he looked like a big man with a good temper. That friend and I, he pointed to the cold-faced white robe lying on the ground, already lifeless. There was a verbal agreement that within 3 days, the white robe messengers could not attack my black robe. As you saw, he lost to. There is nothing right or wrong in this matter, it is just a simple bet. You see, there is nothing wrong with me taking his life, right? The white-robed captain hesitated to speak. He wanted to scold him for his fallacies, but this would lead to a scolding war, which might escalate to a war. he was sure that he might not even be the match for this strong man. For now, we can only try to calm down the war as much as possible. So he nodded, you are justified in killing him, but what does it have to do with him? The white-robed captain was referring to the person Jia Yan killed last. Jia Yan put his hands behind his back and wrote lightly, this is also very simple. You see, when I killed the cold-faced white robe, this man actually used energy to affect my Dao gang. If my Dao gang was not stronger than him, maybe he stopped him, but you think, isn't it worth killing him? Good guy. The white-robed captain shook violently and turned pale. He wanted to vomit blood. What do you think is the sworn hatred of killing your father and your mother, but you end up killing someone for this reason? What is right in front of him is a murderous demon. Not only that, he is also arrogant and running rampant. But so what? After all, this person is strong enough and capable. Okay, I think your killing is justified, take my leave. He didn't dare to say harsh words, lest he would have a long night and have many dreams. Everyone in the white-robe department was extremely aggrieved and filed out one by one. The black-robe department stood beside them and watched happily, as if they were watching monkeys. The masters of the local forces who followed the arrival of the white gods could not hide their disappointment. However, the white-robed envoys who stood in line came in a hurry, but now they have to leave in despair. It is inevitable that there will be a huge gap. At the same time, this ragtag group of people also had some ideas. That is the white god system, which seems to be victorious from the outside world. Can it really win? The black god system is too strong, right? There are experts like strong young men in the so-called latent troops. How can such a terrifying force lose? Friends from the local forces, you have gone astray, but I, the black god sect, are a big force that is open and honest, and will not care about your small mistakes. The door of the black robe messenger is still open for you and others, and you are welcome to visit at any time. The black-robed captain spoke from the bottom of his heart behind the dejected local power masters. Suddenly someone's eyes lit up. However, at most they had some concerns in their hearts. They looked at each other with several other local power masters around them, and then lowered their heads without saying a word. Even if you have an idea, you can't say it in front of the white-robed messenger. Otherwise, if things don't work out, the white-robed side will be held accountable. These are all human spirits, how can they be so stupid? When the crowd dispersed, energy aura immediately emerged from the royal family over there, and several venerable level figures vaguely appeared, bowing from afar, as if they were visiting. Among the black-robed messengers, an ordinary member stepped forward to meet the royal family members. The current royal family is no longer strong enough to ask the high-level black-robed messengers to come forward. The trouble has reached this level, and the royal family has just stood aside, which shows that they are not worthy of trust. Your Excellency, please come in with me and sit down. The black-robed captain treated Jia Yan as a distinguished guest and personally welcomed him into the black-robed messenger's base camp. This is Jia Yan's first time at Capital Base Camp, so it is not an exaggeration to say that he is a guest. Captain, there is no need to be so polite. You are the superior officer. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2838. There is no Shangguan like me in the world. Besides, your status is probably much higher than mine. I can't bear to be called Shangguan by you. The black-robed captain's posture was extremely low. The many black-robed messengers behind him were also respectful. Even the female in black robe, whose figure was accentuated by sweating from fighting due to lack of strength, also became much more respected. Jia Yan was non-committal and just nodded slightly. He couldn't cover up what happened. Now that he's taken action, it's just a fool's errand to think of being a transparent person in the black robe team like before. Besides, it's not like he has any hard reasons, and it doesn't matter whether his identity is exposed or not. Shangguan, this battle is not a crime of war, it is really the scheming of those in the black robe department. On the other side of the white-robed man, as soon as he arrived in the wilderness, the white-robed captain opened the six-pointed star magic circle, and a magical communication law belonging only to the White God Department spread, connecting the senior White God Department officials far away on the front line. There is no sadness or joy in that high-level position. I understand the situation. The man in black robe may have an identity. The senior management seems to be quite understanding. Thank you, sir, for understanding our difficulties. The white-robed captain couldn't help but feel happy. With such a superior officer, he could feel at ease. But the Shangguan in the white robe suddenly said, "Someone must be responsible for this matter. From now on, you will be removed from the position of team leader and will be temporarily replaced by your team's deputy captain. Do you agree?" I accept this punishment." The white-robed captain responded with a helpless expression on his face, and nodded bitterly in agreement. In fact, he had already thought about this punishment, but he didn't expect that Shangguan would be so disrespectful and directly fire him in front of all his subordinates. It shows that this Shangguan is not calm at all, but there must be something dissatisfying with him in his heart. "Thank you, Shangguan. However, the former captain still has a lot to learn from me. I have an unkind request. I would like to re-employ the captain as deputy captain. I wonder if Shangguan will agree." The vice captain was a kind person and stepped forward to request. "That's right, you don't have to worry about the affairs of Taiguo. I have ordered the white robes from other countries to rush to your side. Just be prepared to counterattack. The front-line troops will rush to your side within 2 days. Before that, I hope to hear your good news, otherwise the higher UPS will cut the military budget for you and other white robes next year, so don't blame me for not giving you a chance. Yes, I will work harder later." The channel is closed, and the magic power flies away instantly. The group of white robes looked at each other. "You all heard what Shangguan said, and cheer up. Within the next 2 days, we may have to have another decisive battle with the black robes. If we don't want to die, we will raise our status to the limit." The newly appointed captain quickly adapted to his role and announced the new officer's first order to the white robes. "Yes." Among those who were loud and clear, the loudest one was the former captain, who could be regarded as endorsing the new boss. Just like the strife in the White God sect, there are also many strife on this front line. The various relationships within the White God sect have made the white-robed envoys, a group of front-line fringe troops, very unpopular. Their merits are not as great as those of front-line troops, and they often occupy a lot of resources, causing many people to have opinions about them. This situation also made the white-robed team uncharacteristically very united. Otherwise, there would not have been the scene where the former captain was dismissed by the Shangguan and the current captain came forward to say good things. "Team, Vice Captain, how do we prepare for these 2 days? We still need your efforts. Otherwise, I am afraid that everyone's lives will be at risk if they are left in my hands." "Haha, there's no need for that. Just call me by my real name. I'm no longer the captain." The two captains, old and new, cherish each other and are extremely harmonious. If other members of the White God Department are invited to watch, they might learn a lot. In fact, the White God Department will make some moves, and the Black Robe side is also well aware of it. But for the Taiguo Black Robe team, they were unable to respond effectively at all. The size and strength of this team are too weak. The White Gods are destined to fight back after this defeat. I just don't know the level and scale of their counterattack. I hope it won't be overwhelming. That's right. No matter we win or lose, it's just a delaying tactic. The defeat of the front-line troops of this divine department means that the support from the rear cannot arrive in time. I just called the rear and said that the nearest support force will take a week at the earliest. Time will come. A week? It's too long. By the time they arrive, the daylilies will be cold. What do you think of this? Several black-robed masters from Taiguo talked eloquently, but in the end they all turned their attention to Jia Yan, who was watching from nose to nose and watching from heart. A strong body, in the eyes of this group of experts, is really a bit overwhelming, and a sense of security explodes. Jia Yan is as motionless as a mountain, as if the old god is there. After a long silence, when everyone was a little uneasy and the black-robed captain was about to say something, Jia Yan finally reacted from his petrified state. Originally, I was not prepared to take action. His first words made everyone secretly frightened. At the same time, there is also some confusion. When you said you weren't ready to take action, did you mean to say you wouldn't help? This is not possible. If we had made some concessions in this battle, we might not have reached the point of life and death between the white-robed messengers. But here you are, and you have killed several people on the other side with your little finger. Now you pat your butt and say no help? The black-robed captain's expression changed, and he quickly made up his mind. It was impossible to fight the strong man in front of him, and there was no need to ask for help if he could beat him. It was even more impossible to scold him. If he scolded him, wouldn't he be self-destructive and only make the other party unhappy? His idea was to roll around, cry, make trouble, and hang himself. In short, as long as he can let this person take care of things, he is willing to do it if he is asked to lie on the ground and roll around as a dignified captain. In this situation, can face be worth more than life? However, the captain could not turn his thoughts into actions, so the strong man stood up on his own. But once I take action, I won't put this matter behind me. Don't worry, I know your worries, and I also know what the White God Department will do. I have to deal with them, but it won't be a short time. With that said, Jia Yan raised his steps. Your Excellency, where are you going? The black-robed captain couldn't help but ask. He was afraid that Jia Yan's words would be high-sounding, so he would hide away and make them happy in vain. Don't worry, I'll come back as soon as I go. After Jia Yan finished speaking in a nonchalant manner, his whole body turned into black mist under the gaze of everyone, making the eyes of the men in black robes almost pop out of their sockets. What kind of mobility is this? Someone Jing Tao asked. The black-robed captain's eyes flickered, and he thought for a moment before saying, I'm afraid this is really an invincible strong man of my black god type. I have seen similar methods on the Xi and Shen star. That is a black method that can only be used by those who are invincible, a unique skill of the divine system. The long distance is only a short distance away, as if moving instantly. The group of black robes immediately started talking. Invincible realm. I really don't know which senior in the invincible realm he is. It must be my hidden invincible senior in the Black God sect, otherwise why haven't I heard of his legend before? I'm so envious of this kind of strength. When can I achieve this kind of strength? Even if it's only for one day, this life will be enough. Just you. Don't even think about it. While everyone was chattering, the captain in black robe looked even weirder. In fact, he had other guesses, but he didn't dare to say them out. Compared with ordinary black robes, as the captain, he has a deeper understanding of many secretive events within the Black God system. There are many Black God clones among them. In fact, there are often urban legends about Lord Black God's clone in various places on the battlefield, but those legends have been completely suppressed. However, judging from the feedback from various places, the number of Lord Black God's appearances on the front line is even greater than the number of attacks in the invincible realm. Maybe this one. Thinking of this, he suddenly started to sweat. If this was the gentleman, he would be really trembling. After all, compared to the god of creation in the invincible realm, his status is definitely between heaven and earth. One is their boss, and the other is the god of faith, the myth and legend that created the world. The two are completely incomparable. Of course, even if he had some imagination, the captain still didn't dare to really think that this strong man was the Black God's clone. In short, treat him as a powerful senior and be respectful, that's right. The beautiful woman in black robe beside everyone also looked incredible at this time. She has repeatedly changed her opinion of Jia Yan, but she did not expect that this person is so strong, and his origin and identity are far from what she imagined. She smiled bitterly when she thought that before, she had wanted to use her status as the granddaughter of a master at the top of the venerable to suppress this person. Fortunately, I am not like those strong 3 generations. If I really did something dandy in front of this person, the end might be very miserable. Jia Yan walked away, and the black robes of Taiguo didn't know where he was going. It's just that Jia Yan has his own plan. Now that he had taken action, he never thought of giving up halfway. This matter is related to the stability of the front line in this war zone, especially the black gods on the front line who have lost a battle. If not handled well, it may affect the morale of the entire army. So no matter what, even if this clone sacrifices his life to fight against the white god, he will not hesitate. Bang! After stepping out of the next place, as soon as he revealed his body, he heard the sound of an explosion in front of him. It turns out that this place is another country close to Taiguo, and in this country, the battle between the black and white robes is already in full swing. Naturally, the white-robed envoys will not only deal with the black-robed troops in Taiguo this time. Now that the war has begun, they must be fully mobilized. The forces in the white god system are competing, causing them to be under great pressure. The front-line troops have achieved a great victory. If the white-robed troops cannot carry the power of victory, the martial arts stars lurking here will also seize the opportunity. If you take the lead, you may be taken advantage of by ginseng, cutting military expenditures and resources, or even disbanding the entire army. Therefore, the battle here was no calmer than that in Taiguo. Jia Yan was not shocked at all. Although the power of the clone is not strong, it can still barely sense the violent fluctuations on the entire planet. Before he came, he sorted out the priorities and the most urgent areas first. Damn it! There was an old man in black robes standing in front of him, his face was ugly and his breathing was extremely rapid. He is the person in charge of the black robe in this country. He was not weak in strength, but he was obviously getting old and his strength had been declining for a long time. After fighting the young white-robed captain on the opposite side for 10 rounds, he showed a flaw, and his backhand hit the old man in the back. But before that, the young captain in white robe noticed a figure appearing in front of the old man. He didn't know how this figure appeared, but it must be an ordinary black-robed member who risked his life to intercept his attack in order to save the old man. Don't overestimate your capabilities, you all die together. Is it? After Jia Yan's true colors were revealed, he followed his words, and the ghost-headed sword behind him automatically popped out of its sheath. Although this was a tattered weapon that he casually found in the Xian Shen Star weapons arsenal, at this moment, it was obvious that this weapon was like a real divine weapon, with unparalleled power. The ghost-headed sword let out a thunderous roar and fell into Jia Yan's hands. I saw Jia Yan advancing by leaps and bounds. The ghost-headed sword perfectly embodied the beauty of strength. The huge blade slashed across the body of the arrogant white-robed man, bringing up a stream of bright red blood. So fast. This man is extraordinary, let's join forces. Under the rule of the White God sect, there is naturally a joint fighting technique similar to that of the Black God sect, and this technique is more mature than the variant of the Pai Guo Wei tactics taught by Jia Yan. After all, they are old forces with a family background, although they are joining forces. The template of the moves is a bit old-fashioned, but thanks to the antiquity, these moves are more mature in comparison. The combination of combat power and Black God type skills is really hard to distinguish from Shuyuan equally equal. At this time, the confidence of the white-robed people has not been broken, and they can still act together. Immediately, 3 men in white robes withdrew from the battle group and rushed towards Jia Yan with ferocious eyes. Entering the circle surrounded by the 3 of them is equivalent to hitting the enemy's strongest combat field. It is difficult to stand up even if it is not invincible. This friend in black robe, please be careful. Although the black-robed envoys did not know Jia Yan, they could recognize the authentic black robe he was wearing, the one with the anti-counterfeiting mark. So someone couldn't help but remind him. But seeing that Jia Yan was still in a leisurely mood, he turned around and smiled at the person who was speaking, which made the person's scalp tingle. If I had known better, I wouldn't have howled like this, but I ended up doing bad things with good intentions, and I ended up hurting others. But what Jia Yan did next made the black-robed messenger know that he was wrong, so wrong. If you don't have any skills, do you dare to clone yourself during the war? You are not a super beauty. Do you have the capital to distract such a master from looking at you? Don't you have any points? Pyridine. Jia Yan's ghost-headed sword was seen falling again, and the 2 white-robed masters who were galloping on horseback were bleeding profusely, and their bodies were broken by the ghost-headed sword. Before the next comer could attack, their joint formation was already broken. Ah! The fastest person's heart tightened, and when he looked at the ground, his colleague rolling beside his feet was already dying. Even if the highest level healing magician of the White God system was here, he might not be able to save his life. Retreat. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2839. This man was so frightened that he dared to rush forward. He retracted his legs and rushed forward to release his strength, and he dodged to the other side in a panic, temporarily avoiding the sharp edge of the ghost-headed sword. However, the ghost-headed sword, which represented the will of the god of death, did not let him get what he wanted. It drew a half-circle in the air, carrying the indomitable aura of killing 2 people in a row, and the lightning and flint fell on his chest. Ah! The death of this man was miserable, even worse than the former one. This person is difficult to deal with, retreat quickly. The unexpected visitor caused great chaos in the field. Some white-robed masters wanted to retreat, but others wanted to rush forward. The situation was instantly chaotic. Get everyone out of here. The tall, strong man on horseback came and roared, and the sword light spread out in a circular arc. Everyone around was struck by the attack one after another. Although the attack's lethality was greatly reduced due to the dispersion of power, several people were still slightly or seriously injured. For a time, everyone was in danger and no one dared to attack again. I have seen this, captain. I am the black-robed captain from Taiguo. I am pressed for time. Who is the white-robed captain? The black-robed people here were also dumbfounded by the sudden change. When the strong man asked, they came to their senses. I have seen this, colleague, and that is the captain in the other party's white robe. Captain Haiping responded first. Jia Yan nodded slightly and looked at the white-robed man who had previously fought with the black-robed captain. The opponent was obviously not an ordinary person, otherwise he wouldn't have suppressed the black-robed captain in the battle just now. Is there another one in black robe who is going to die? That's fine, it saves me the trouble of searching them one by one. Come on. The white-robed captain could see that Jia Yan was far from being as easy to deal with as an ordinary black-robed man, but at this moment the arrow was on the string and he had to shoot, so it would be better to just start the fight quickly. This person made an initiative, and several people responded immediately. They approached Jia Yan from several directions, and their actions were coordinated. It can be seen from their actions that unlike the white robes of Taiguo, The white robe team here is a team that focuses on cooperation. The individual strength may be comparable to that of the Taiguo white robe, but with the ability to cooperate, the overall strength may be significantly stronger than the Taiguo white robe team. It's just that these improvements in strength seem pale in front of Jia Yan. Jia Yan was holding the ghost-headed sword and was about to move. The captain in black robe could not help but come to Jia Yan's side, holding the sword and preparing to fight the powerful enemy together. The two of them went hand in hand, each finding the weak points of the enemy they had seen through. However, they had different visions and were not looking for the same person. Therefore, the breakthroughs made by both sides were clearly different, and it looked like two people who were close to each other, but had different opinions. Cooperate with comrades for many years. Don't overestimate your own capabilities. Everyone in the white robe department laughed sarcastically when they saw the actions of both parties. Different from the few people who attacked Jia Yan just now, they are the elite of the entire white robe team, and the captain also came to this team in person, so their combat power should be the strongest in the entire white robe team. If Jia Yan and the black-robed captain cooperated and advanced and retreated together, they might be able to survive for a while, but they actually chose two different directions. How is this different from fighting alone? The white-robed captain took the lead, jumped up high, and faced the black-robed captain. This was his old enemy. As the saying goes, the more enemies know you better. The white-robed captain also knew that the black-robed captain was in tit-for-tat with him. After a long time, I must have known my own weaknesses and ideas best. In this battle, I must find a way to solve the black-robed captain, otherwise there will still be variables. This is also the reason why he did not choose the strong black robe who looked a bit powerful, but came to the black robe captain in person. Oh? Your white-robed captain doesn't seem to pay much attention to me. Jia Yan broke into the circle surrounded by three strong men in white robes, but his eyes still dared to glance at the captain in black robes uninhibitedly. Boy, how dare you be so arrogant? The three of them were furious. Jia Yan's calm attitude seemed to them to be disrespectful to them. When one of them handed over the knife, his move was like the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves, and there was a real killer hidden behind it. It was impossible for ordinary people to resist. Jia Yan seemed to have seen through this a long time ago. The ghost-headed sword in his hand instantly turned into a light butterfly and came to the front of the white-robed man's spear. A ball of sparks burst out from both sides. But behind this strong man, there is a trump card hidden. That was another master who cooperated perfectly with him. He used a kaleidoscope-like magic attack. After the spell was completed, a large needle-like magic shot out. Although each shot was not very lethal, it covered a wide area and could definitely hit people. It is difficult to move, which will delay the enemy's footsteps, which is enough for them to kill them. It turns out you are brewing this trick. Jia Yan slightly praised. Using the ghost head sword in his hand as a fulcrum, he was ejected and flew high into the sky. A large amount of magical light underneath him brushed past his body, as if it was just a hair's breadth away. Damn it, but you're still going to die. The person who shot the magic looked gloomy, but was not discouraged because they had other backups. The backhand is the last comrade. Although that person didn't cooperate much with them, he was not a fool. His predecessors had laid the groundwork for him. If he couldn't even make up for it with a knife in the air, that would be too stupid. Go to hell. This person flashed behind Jia Yan, and his gloved fist fell like lightning and thunder. Why bother with beating and killing people, alas? Jia Yan sighed with good intentions, and the ghost head sword suddenly sped up. This accelerated speed is not because he used stronger power to cheat. Although as a black god, his power is extremely terrifying, but not much is distributed to each clone, so as not to be overwhelmed by the real body's power. Unless absolutely necessary, he can definitely save everything when dealing with ordinary characters. So this accelerated speed is just that he used skillful moves and changes, coupled with certain combat skills, to let inertia accelerate his weapons. It is quite simple to say. But speaking of it, there are very few who can do it. At least no one here can do this. So fast. The unexpected acceleration caused the face of the sneak attacker behind him to change wildly. He restrained his fist in an impatience, and directly blocked it in front of his chest. Before he could move down, he felt that the ghost-headed sword hit the glove with the force of swallowing mountains and rivers, and then his fist couldn't bear the powerful force and hit his chest together. What kind of strange power is this? Such a thought flashed in the man's heart, and before he could take any more actions, the man behind the ghost-headed sword launched a leg move, and the black-robed messenger's special fine iron boots fell on his waist, directly letting out a huge scream of broken spine. With a loud noise, his body turned into two weirdly twisted parts and shot towards the ground, causing a loud noise like an earthquake. "It's your turn." Jia Yan didn't even look at the person who was kicked, but directly looked at the two men who were about to step forward to help, but were stunned by the scene. The two men cooperated seamlessly in white robes. The two of them were already stunned by Jia Yan's breathtaking combat power. Looking at Jia Yan's calm posture, they didn't know that this person was simply not something they could deal with. After all, the two combos just now seemed simple, but they required a lot of energy. After completing these two moves, the strong black-robed man was still breathing smoothly, which showed that he still had plenty of energy left. For a profession like the strongman, eyesight is very necessary. If anyone clearly sees that the enemy is difficult to deal with and steps forward with determination, then he is either the protagonist of the novel who has the protagonist's destiny, or he is a fool who wants to die. These two people consider themselves neither protagonists nor fools, so they can only settle for the next best thing and make the choices that normal people would make. Comrades, this man is the secret weapon of the black-robed messenger. Let's shoulder it together. In the midst of the turmoil, the two of them stepped back and shouted loudly, hoping that everyone would discover the black-robed man's fighting power and come to help him. At that time, even if this black-robed man is outstanding in combat ability and cannot beat four hands with two fists, you can really turn the tide with one hand. I'll help you. Someone had already defeated the black-robed envoy who was fighting him nearby. When he heard the news, he took a breath of cold air and stepped forward very loyally. Fool. Jia Yan was slightly distracted. It seems that not all people in the world only care about themselves. That's right. If the war was full of selfish people, then there would be no need to fight the war, and they would all escape. There must always be some warm-hearted people with ideals, fools. Since you have such righteous views, let me give you a decent way to die. Jia Yan was a little moved, and couldn't help but swing the ghost-head sword in his hand faster. As a result, the fastest victim jumped excitedly in front of Jia Yan. Before he could raise the weapon in his hand to stab Jia Yan, he felt a chill on his neck. When he lowered his head, he saw blood flying. Looking behind him again, his eyes were unsightly. Very meow. Do you dare to come up here alone to delay time? You don't want to save your comrades. Damn it, why don't you bring something like this? This is the first time I have been selected to become a white robe. I originally thought that this place would be like a frontline war, where everyone would help each other during the fight, but it turned out not to be the case. The red line on this man's neck bloomed, and a large amount of blood shot out. The vitality in his eyes quickly disappeared. Perhaps the last thing left in the world was regret. If he had known this, his blood would not have boiled. If he had known this, he would not have even participated in the white robe squad. It would have been much more honorable to die on the front line than to die here because of the white robe squad's disunity. Well. This sigh came from Jia Yan. He quite lamented this person. After all, the world still needs people like this. It's a pity that they are not his subordinates. You two, There's no need to run away. At this time, after slicing Tai Wa's neck, he had already used his inertia to rush behind the two men in white robes who were holding hands. You don't care about us, we can just run away. Help. The two of them are indeed well-coordinated people. One person responds to Jia Yan, while the other person opens his mouth and asks for help. The division of labor is clear. Pyridine. However, their words soon got stuck in their throats. Because Jia Yan magically held the ghost-headed sword and flashed past the two of them, one sword at a time, neatly solving their sinful lives. Good friends, we walked together. We were not born in the same year, the same month and the same day, but died in the same year, the same month and the same day. It's really touching. Jia Yan himself put on a big show for the two of them in his heart. Needless to say, it was quite interesting. Invincible. Could this person be invincible? Isn't it funny? In the invincible realm, instead of sitting on the front line, you come here to be a little black robe. Even after destroying several top white-robed men, the opponent was not blind. He could see that this strong black-robed man was not just crazy, but also had crazy strength. The venerable level was destroyed like flowers and plants on the roadside. What is it if it is not the invincible state? Jia Yan was so used to being shocked that others were shocked. In front of the God of creation, what does invincibility mean? Of course, Jia Yan doesn't want to pretend to be this kind. Pyridine. He stared at a white robe who gave in, followed closely, and flashed the tip of the knife. After the blade passed by, the white robe fell to the ground unwillingly. The bloodshed of a man in white robe made everyone around him jealous, and even the black-robed messengers couldn't believe it. This is so awesome. Those who are attentive can also find that this strong man seems to be passing a leaf among thousands of flowers without touching him, but this is not the case at all. He certainly couldn't withstand the attacks of so many white robes, so he seemed to be fighting forward bravely, but he had been using strange movement techniques to avoid the enemy's main force, and stepped on the enemy's weak points step by step. I can't hit him, the knife is too strong. The record was in shambles, and the mentality of the white robes was explosive. After the key points were the deaths of 10 white robes, the comparison of the strong men between the two sides had been reversed. There are more strong men in black robes than in white robes. The key is that Jia Yan, a black-robed supreme master who suddenly appeared, what will they use to fight? It wasn't until Jia Yan chased the enemy's white-robed captain and chopped off his arm with a knife that the captain turned pale and shouted in fear, "Back off! You can't leave!" Following his roar was Jia Yan's calm voice as if he had stepped out of hell. Before the white-robed captain finished speaking, De Hao's head flew into the air. Run away! At this moment, the leaderless white-robed people were no longer just retreating, they had completely fled. The battlefield where the two sides fought was abruptly disrupted by an outsider like Jia Yan, turning the outcome upside down. The injured healed quickly while the others gave chase. Be careful of falling into the enemy's trap. The black-robed captain held his injured abdomen and instructed his subordinates on how to proceed with the pursuit. Then he came to Jia Yan with respectful and suspicious eyes. "Thank you, sir, for assisting us. I wonder which Lord of Taiguo you are. It's just a nickname, it's not worth mentioning. You don't need to talk to me anymore. I'm leaving now. You guys need to rest and recuperate. Maybe there will be a big war in the near future." What Jia Yan said was like a spring breeze, but also very mysterious. "Thank you for your care, sir. I will recharge my batteries for the future battle." Jia Yan nodded and looked in a certain direction. The black-robed captain felt his eyes blurred. When he looked again, the black-robed master who wielded the sword had disappeared. As expected, my black god department is crouching tiger, hidden dragon. Who said that if the front line is defeated, this area will be lost? The black-robed captain's overall appearance became much better. Ever since the news of the front-line defeat came yesterday, these black-robed men have become panic-stricken. Even he himself is a little worried about the situation, fearing that one day the enemy's front-line troops will arrive here. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2840. Now that there is such a great master in charge, what are they afraid of? It's not that I believe that this great god-level master can resist the enemy's entire starry sky front with one hand, but with such a master here, there is no way that the black god system will just sit back and watch and ruin his life. Maybe the reinforcements have already arrived. Came here at full speed. This is called hope. See you soon. After Jia Yan exerted his divine power, he rose into the sky again, and for a moment, he turned into water in the air, and shuttled into the black space dedicated to the black god system. Even the silhouette of the departing figure is so majestic. I, a master of the black god system, am different. The black robes were all fascinated. Jia Yan entered the black space, felt the fluctuations of the external battle, and then moved quickly within this black energy tidal space similar to subspace. The tense martial arts star is filled with a large number of figures in black and white robes. Perhaps the indigenous people who originally thought there were very few outsiders on this planet will be suddenly shocked to find that there are so many outsiders. Even their three views will be refreshed, because after the war broke out between the black and white robe messengers, there are many people with similar level of strength as the three heroes. The war zones in this country are also somewhat dangerous. This will be the next one. Jia Yan did not hesitate and quickly chose a fighting country and shuttled out of the black space. Moments later, he followed suit, causing a huge uproar in that land. Because there are generally more white-robed envoys than black-robed envoys from various countries, and white-robed envoys often surround themselves with a large number of local masters, the black-robed envoys are at an absolute disadvantage in almost every battlefield. However, if the black-robed envoys were so easy to deal with, they would have been wiped out by the white-robed envoys long ago. Precisely because the two sides were generally evenly matched, the battle between the white-robed envoys and the local masters was still tense. Even in some areas, the black-robed team still had an overwhelming advantage. Jia Yan's rescue order starts from the most critical battlefield, so the battlefield he rushes to becomes more stable in the later stages. Until the last few battlefields, he found that the two sides were becoming more and more balanced. I don't need to appear here anymore. On the last battlefield, he didn't take any action, but just watched silently in the space holding his breath. In fact, even though the black robes were doing pretty well, he was not satisfied. There is a big gap in the number of people between the black gods and the white gods, so Jia Yan's idea is to use the absolute strength of a single entity to reverse this gap. In this way, at least there is still the possibility of fighting. But in this battle, small things lead to big things. Not to mention that the latent troops are second-rate troops and cannot represent the front line, but often such troops can best represent the true strength. Otherwise, everything depends on the main front line troops. What if the front line troops are defeated one day? Speaking of which, the current situation is that the front line has been defeated, but the second-rate front line echelon cannot become the new mainstay. While Jia Yan was secretly observing the last battle outside, which was probably the strongest black-robed team on the planet, he was thinking about how to optimize the second-rate troops to become the new pillar. But this situation is difficult to reverse. Don't think that Jia Yan, a senior domain master, will have a solution. Basic things are often more difficult to solve. Otherwise, throughout the ages, there have been so many senior territory lords in the Milky Way, and there are even galaxy summits that are more terrifying than the senior territory lords. Why has no one managed to change the entire galaxy? Maybe that has actually changed. For example, the overwhelming number of powerful civilizations in the Milky Way are already the result of the efforts of previous generations. The problem is that people cannot be satisfied. With the current level of civilization, you will have new desires. The same is true for Jia Yan. The main front line troops can already fight 1 against 2, or even more, but he also expects the second line troops to do the same thing. With the amount of training and actual combat experience of the second line troops, it is very difficult to achieve this. The teachings are the same. They are the variant yin and yang dao that Jia Yan has worked hard on for several years since he entered this world, or the joint enhancement tactics he found using the power of black and white, or the Pai Guo Wei tactics and more. But actual combat experience and talent cannot be changed by teaching him. It is not without reason that the second echelon will become the second echelon. Things that are inferior to the first echelon can never be changed. Even if he is a strong leader of the domain, he cannot make others become strong out of thin air, right? Well, did you win? Jia Yan thought for a long time, but he had no idea what to do. When he looked carefully, he saw that the battle outside was over. Unknowingly, the black-robed messenger team from the outside world defeated the white-robed team. Huh. At this moment, Jia Yan noticed that the black-robed captain in the black-robed team looked like an immortal cultivator. He closed his eyes tightly and did not participate in the front-line battle. But this person actually closed his eyes and felt the battle fluctuations in the outside world, pointed out to his subordinates where there were enemy fluctuations, and developed simplified command signals that only belonged to their team, bringing the efficiency of these battle commands to the highest level. And when several of his subordinates joined forces and killed the last white-robed master on the spot, and the remaining local martial arts masters immediately dispersed, the immortal cultivator silently opened his eyes. Captain, no one in this team died, and more than half of the enemies were killed. Okay, this captain will ask for help from the top and give you the greatest merit medal. Thank you, Captain. The whole team was full of momentum. Captain, please come over and have a chat. But at this moment, a sudden sound came from not far away, making everyone's hearts tighten, fearing that another powerful enemy was coming, and everyone immediately looked around. They saw a strong man appearing out of thin air at the ruins they had just cleaned up. Fortunately, this man was wearing a black robe and it didn't look like a fake black robe. He was a colleague. Captain, this person is suspicious, why don't you let me wait and interrogate him? No, information just came. There is an expert in black robe assisting other battlefields on the entire planet. That expert must be this friend. I'll go over and talk to him. The immortal cultivator was very impressive. He dusted himself off and walked up to Jia Yan with a sunny smile. This friend has been observing secretly for quite some time, right? Yes, you did a good job, so I didn't show up. Jia Yan did not deny it, but admitted it openly. Friend, are you in the invincible realm? If you think so, then so be it. Jia Yan was ambiguous. Accompanied by the immortal cultivator in front of him, the two started walking mode. Invincible. The immortal cultivator looked up at Jia Yan and said more respectfully, I wonder what my friend wants to talk to me about. Even if the invincible realm were placed at the forefront, they would definitely be commanding an army. Compared with him, the captain of the ordinary black-robed team, his status and strength were as strong as the sky. I want to ask you, your team's apparent strength is not much different from that of the white robes, why is it so easy to win? Friend, I am an immortal cultivator. As you know, in addition to physical combat power, immortal cultivators also have great advantages in other senses. Especially in this area, the enemy generally does not have strong senses, so I taking advantage of the enemy's disadvantage, and studying my Black God's joint tactics, I came up with a plan that can be combined with my Black God's joint skills to assist the cultivator's sensory advantages and command from the center. In this way, it can greatly enhance our joint combat power, and this is the reason for our victory. Jia Yan listened intently along the way. In fact, before asking, he had already roughly seen the method used by this cultivator. Just hearing it from his mouth in person still made Jia Yan a little amazed. Sure enough, we should not underestimate the heroes of the world. Your way of cultivating immortals to assist the army enhancement plan is really eye-opening. After a while, Jia Yan nodded. The captain in black robe quickly apologized. I don't dare to be praised so much by my friends. In fact, my plan is just a trick. For example, there are environmental factors and the need to analyze the composition of the enemy. In addition, I need to have a sufficient understanding of the situation of my subordinates. In other words, on the battlefield, it may not have this effect. Jia Yan nodded appreciatively. You have this humility, which is very valuable. I know this, and your method can indeed give people extraneous ideas. I don't know your specific identity, my friend. Jia Yan smiled mysteriously. No need to ask, no need to say. After this battle, there should be a letter of appointment for the staff group. You should be prepared. The staff department needs your assistance. I'm sorry. Well. Before the captain could say that he still wanted to stay on the front line, or before he could ask what his subordinates should do, under the captain's gaze, the strong man in front of him just melted into the air and gradually disappeared. What a terrifying movement technique, it comes and goes without a trace. The captain's whole body felt like it was struck by lightning. Then he became distressed. Oh, I really need to change my fast-talking way in the future. This time I talked too much, and I was asked to be transferred to the rear. How should I explain to them? The captain has such an alternative way of thinking. He doesn't want to go to the rear, but wants to be on the front line, playing heartbeat games with his teammates. This is called a warrior. No wonder he can think of ways to effectively control his team. You know, he is a native of the world created by computers. He is not a computer lover at the level of Mr. Right, so how can he have such high innovation ability? Jia Yan entered the black space and savored the battle scene just now. To be honest, when he first promoted several combat techniques in this world, he had already thought deeply enough about race issues, training plans, and the general geographical differences on the planet. However, it is impossible to cover everything, let alone such a major cultivation event involving hundreds of millions of people. It seems that the advantage of a cultivator lies not only in his unique mind and understanding of cultivation. Jia Yan made an analogy. He also thought that the orcs, for example, could not only explode their power and go up with ferocious bites, but could also take advantage of their various natural advantages, such as good noses, sharp claws, and hearing hundreds of times stronger than ordinary creatures, etc. There are definitely more than thousands of combinations of combat skills that come to mind. If we can rank the pros and cons of each race and each skill practitioner, and then optimize the combination accordingly, we might be able to get the strongest troops under today's conditions. It's difficult to say, but this kind of thing only requires people of various races and cultivation skills to make rough formulas and then calculate them using algorithms. It's not too difficult. As for the calculations, Jia Yan does not need to do the calculations himself. Doesn't he have the strongest brain in the world? Edisha. If you clarify your thoughts, it won't be that complicated. I will pass this idea to the Black God clone when I get back. As for whether he adopts it or not, it depends on him. This strong clone is nothing more than a clone. He thought of a good battle plan, but he couldn't just explain it in words. He is not a black god. Every day, the clones will always have ideas that they think are quite amazing, flashes of inspiration, etc., which are conveyed to the black god clone through special methods. Unfortunately, after being screened by the Black God clone, only a few were finally accepted. Obviously everyone is a clone, and the status of the Black God's clone is the same as his real body, which leads to quite a lot of criticism among these clones. Buzz. After a while, Jia Yan entered the Lushuatan headquarters under the respectful attention of many Taiguo black robes. At this time, Many people in black robes came to Greenwater Beach to visit him, the legendary strong man in black robes. It's just that Jia Yan left all these visitors to the female black robe, and he unceremoniously became the hands-off shopkeeper. No one was outraged that he had adopted this attitude. No one dares. After entering the room, Jia Yan sat down directly on the bed, with a dark look in his eyes. The space of the underworld was pulled apart and torn apart. A certain amount of chaotic power entered the underworld, was enhanced by some kind of equipment, and then emitted steadily. Soon, the Black God clone who was on the Xian Shen star, the young man Jia Yan who was admired by everyone, received this message. Is it another new idea? Let me see. The young Jia Yan still attaches great importance to his belief in his clone. Because to put it bluntly, everyone is actually Jia Yan, but they have deliberately blocked the spiritual power connection between them. This can reduce the power consumption as much as possible, and is less likely to cause confusion in the real body's thinking, and can even prevent mental problems. After reading the message, the Black God boy's eyes shone with contemplation. Then he nodded. This discovery is indeed something I didn't notice before. It's not that I can't let Edissa handle it. It's just that the two of them now, don't know if they still have time. The young man Jia Yan opened the underworld space himself and escaped into the void, wondering whether he was looking for Edissa and the others. In short, the strong black robe on the martial arts star, not long after concentrating on it, vaguely received some message. After a while, he broke out into a smile. It seems that this guy doesn't take himself completely seriously. Anyway, I hope that the discovery I presented can be implemented as soon as possible, but before that, I have to find ways to calm down the war in this area. In this way, Jia Yan caused great turmoil in the martial arts star, but he himself was like a top master who retired after his success. After making a big move, he quickly gave up peach picking. The black-robed envoys quickly began to take over the many resources and forces that the white-robed envoys gave up after retreating. But the white robes didn't really escape. Instead, they lurk in the mountains and forests or among hidden forces. They are waiting. Wait for the arrival of frontline troops. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2841. The black-robed envoys, who were facing a formidable enemy, failed to effectively solve the communication and defense issues. In fact, this shows that the black-robed messengers are one of the characteristics of the second echelon troops on the front line. Even if they are regarded as godlike figures by the gods in the eyes of the local residents of the martial arts planet, it cannot change the fact that they are ranked second in the Black God system. If it is an elite unit, it can make effective assembly and defense responses as early as the day the news comes from the front line. But the black-robed messengers did not. After a day of chaos, until the white-robed messengers brought a large number of local masters to attack, they were still in chaos. It was the same this time. The chaos continued until the Starry Sky informant came to report that a large number of unidentified flying instruments had arrived not far from the martial arts star. The black-robed messengers were still in a state of impatience but with nothing to do. My lord, the White God Department has arrived not far from the martial arts star, and I would like to ask your lord to come forward to take charge of the affairs. The black-robed captain of Taiguo came to Jia Yan's office and made a lot of remarks. Jia Yan, however, seemed to be focused on nothing, sitting on a chair and reading a certain martial arts secret book on this planet, reading it with gusto, as if he didn't care about the world. Captain Taiguo was a little anxious. Seeing that Jia Yan refused to express his position, he was ready to say something else. But before that, Jia Yan stopped him. Captain, you are a dignified captain in black robes. How can you be so unbecoming in such a panic? He closed the book and formally looked at the titular captain. "How can I call myself captain in front of you? My lord, just tell me what preparations we need to make. This battle is worrying." Affected by Jia Yan's calmness, the black-robed captain sighed and spoke in a slightly less anxious voice. Jia Yan ignored his complaints and looked at the sky outside the window. The black-robed captain followed his gaze and saw only the blue sky. Jia Yan was different. What he saw was a group of warships coming from the distant starry sky and strong men camping on the starry sky. This is the front-line force of the White God Department, and it is only a partial division. The White God Department probably has never thought about what kind of powerful combat power the Black God Department would place on a remote planet. Of course, even if Jia Yan, a sudden master in black robes, is added, even if he uses the full strength of the clone, there will be another death, otherwise his clone will be unable to defeat the army with two fists. Grown-ups. Seeing Jia Yan staring blankly at the sky, the black-robed captain of the Tai Kingdom couldn't help but give a few words behind him. He had to hurry. The entire black-robed envoy team is in chaos. They rarely confront enemy regular troops on the frontal battlefield, not to mention that there are white-robed enemy troops inside the martial arts star that are not weaker than the black-robed envoys, and the white god-type troops arriving from the starry sky. Just a small amount is enough to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. At this time, a master like Jia Yan needs to come forward and comfort them to a certain extent. Only in this way can the morale of the military be stabilized to a limited extent, otherwise there will inevitably be waivers. "What do you want me to do? Go out and have fun with you?" Jia Yan suddenly raised his voice. He looked away and looked at the black-robed captain of Taiguo. "I." Jia Yan shook his head. "It's not without reason that you are waiting to become a second-rate army. At this time, you also want to rely on others, and you can't even quickly find someone to obey. The rules and regulations of the Black God system, and the wartime regulations, you none can do it? No. According to the rules, we need to choose the one with the most leadership. They only recognize you." The black-robed captain hesitated. "Didn't I say right away that I won't be the person in charge and let you decide who is the person in charge? What's the result?" The black-robed captain was speechless. In fact, all the teams of black-robed envoys, before gathering yesterday, had collectively decided that Jia Yan needed to lead them, because Jia Yan was strong enough to lead them to their only chance of survival. If it weren't for Jia Yan, maybe they would still recognize the immortal cultivator captain who won the battle with the white robe, but now that there is a better choice, they will never give in. It cannot be said that they did not comply with the regulations, it can only be said that they did not know how to adapt. You go out and tell them to come up with a solution to the problem as quickly as possible instead of pleading with others. Jia Yan waved his hand and drove Captain Taiguo out of the office. Not long after, beautiful women came one after another and brought fragrant tea. After Jia Yan showed his strength, the woman changed from her previous overbearing attitude to the simple assistant she is now. "Are you really not ready to take action?" Unexpectedly, the woman beside Jia Yan also asked questions. "If you are not prepared, you will just wait to die with those black robes." Jia Yan's urn sounded loudly. "You are my master of the Black God sect after all, are you prepared to risk your life and not save me?" Jia Yan couldn't laugh or cry. "Please, I'm not one of you. In terms of my current status, I'm just one of the ordinary black robes. Why do I have to save everyone? You guys have just forgotten the most important thing about being a frontline soldier, the ring. It is this ring that makes you only a second-rate force. What's the most important part? When two armies clash, the brave one wins." "Oh." The woman thought for a long time and probably thought of something, but she walked away confused. From then on, no one bothered Jia Yan again. The black-robed messengers are not fools. If Jia Yan is forced again, he might be an invincible master and walk away. What can you do to him? After all, this person here is only a black robe, and he has returned to the rear of the black god system. Regardless of whether anyone with this strength is willing to risk the death of other invincible rabbits and punish him, it is only said that he is only a black robe in the martial arts star. If the enemy is currently strong and cannot be defeated, evacuation is allowed. This is called tactical retreat. Puff. Jia Yanwu slipped into the black space. He stepped into the starry sky and arrived in front of the approaching white god troops. Then Jia Yan stepped back a little distance. In this army, he felt a power that could threaten his clone, an invincible master. This is not surprising. If the white god department dares not to party and wait for the master to come, knowing that there may be an invincible black robe on this planet, then there is something wrong. Jia Yan didn't explore the invincible realm too much because it didn't matter. There is really only one invincible person, and he thinks that his clone is enough to defeat this person. The original clones in this world couldn't do it, but after living in this world for a long time, these clones are no longer Wuxiaman. They have even killed several true gods, so how can they still be afraid of the ordinary invincibility realm? He flew around the white god-type troops, observing them in detail. The main purpose of observation is to see if there are any god-level masters hiding among them. Yes, what Jia Yan is most worried about is the god-level masters. After the last divine war, it is no longer a big deal for a divine master to show up on the current battlefield. If someone really comes, he suspects that his clone will be beaten to death. If he dies, he won't even be able to replace an invincible one, which would be a huge loss. After all, god-level masters are the ultimate beings in the outside world. Don't think that all his clones will die together. If someone is prepared or attacks unexpectedly, most of his clones will not even have time to vent their self-destruction energy, and they will be stillborn. Probably there is no god-level one. Jia Yan explored for a long time and felt that there should be no god-level masters of the white god system in this area. No matter how weak the clone is, it is still his clone. As a creation god, he has a fundamental connection with this world. No matter how strong the god level is, as long as he investigates in detail, he can always see some clues. It's not Jia Yan's boasting. Even if White Dolphin comes in person and gives him some time, he can always feel something. Unless it is something stronger than the White Dolphin. But is this possible? In this world of creation, even Jia Yan didn't dare to say such a thing as the existence of the White Dolphin. After all, the two of them were both creation gods, and the last battle they fought could not yet tell the winner. Very good. This way I don't have to worry about anything. Although I can't stand those black robes, they haven't violated the regulations. They're just not as brave and decisive as the front-line troops. The personnel manager who puts them into the second-rate army has a human eye. It's quite ruthless, so I can't just ignore them. In the next war, it's up to me to fight and retreat, and try to see if I can save them. Besides, the Black God clone also promised to send reinforcements, but they will arrive at a slightly slower time. I can do it if I just delay. Jia Yan's strong clone didn't notice that after he flashed across the front-line army of the white gods, there were two huge eyes gleaming deep in the starry sky. The surging light quickly converged, and even the clone could not detect it. Sir, are you saying that you have obtained specific information about the enemy? Where did this come from? You don't have to worry about where it comes from. In short, the information is absolutely true. Make arrangements for me and be prepared. Yes. After obtaining Jia Yan's first-hand information on the personnel of the White God Department's frontline troops, the beautiful woman's face became filled with joy and she left with a graceful step. Of course, Jia Yan believes that as long as those black robes open the intelligence content and watch it, they will feel like they are mourning for their heirs. The difference in strength between the two sides is too great. Letting the black-robed messengers deal with them is like hitting an egg against a stone. Just as Jia Yan imagined, The black robe soon became chaotic, and he became a little angry. On the night when he got the first-hand information from Jia Yan, some of them fled the martial arts star overnight, and even went to the white robes directly. Powerful people appear. This is not surprising. The Black God sect is a force with a large number of people. In terms of population size and complexity of its composition, it is undoubtedly the most troublesome one that Jia Yan has encountered in all his years of wandering around the world. Therefore, it is normal and even commonplace for people to appear as fugitives. But when it happens before your eyes, it is inevitably disgusting. Without exception, the moment these rare traitors surrender to the enemy, black power will appear out of thin air and pierce them directly. Some of the worst-case scenarios will be crushed to pieces by the force, and even the slightest trace of their existence will be wiped out. As for the escapees, although their behavior was similar, at least they did not fall to the enemy. These black forces only subdued them and sent them to military courts for trial later. The one who uses black power is naturally Jia Yan. Actually, the situation is better than I thought. No more than 10 people defected at most, which is less than 1% in terms of ratio. It shows that the Black God Department military is still very capable. After becoming furious, Jia Yan sat cross-legged in the office again. The long night is peaceful, but it is also unsettling, especially for the black-robed messengers. Of course, the white-robed messengers hiding in the deep mountains and old forests also have sleepless nights. Compared with the black-robed messengers, the white-robed messengers were all in a state of excitement and anticipation. Looking at this martial arts star battle from their perspective, although the white-robed messengers are temporarily at a disadvantage, it is not a crime of war. If it were not for the emergence of an invincible master with great magical powers in the black-robed messenger team, they would not be able to fail so miserably. Therefore, they have no sense of shame at all. They only hope that the white god-type army arriving tomorrow will be able to bloodbath the black-robed messengers. It is best to capture the invincible master and hand it over to their white-robed team to take revenge. Even the many local forces fell into absolute silence as if they had agreed. From the information they have, the local forces have already known that the black and white gods will not easily launch a brutal local massacre, so after all, they do not need to participate in the battle between the two gods. It's not about sitting back and reaping the benefits, but we have to wait for the two sides to decide the outcome in this starry sky, and then fall to the winner. This is the way for the local forces to survive. Otherwise, if they make a decision too early, what if the gods choose? If the system is defeated, wouldn't you be seeking your own death? The black and white messengers were either worried, frightened, or trembling with fear. Looking for books. And the local forces are watching the changes. In the east of the martial arts star, the first ray of morning sun finally rises into the sky. And with the appearance of this ray of morning sun, the front-line troops of the white god system, which had been hanging high in the stars like Shangfang's sword in the sky, finally moved. The white god fleet, which even the powerful could not see, gradually showed its signs. Above the blue sky, the figure of this alien visitor gradually became a strange landscape falling in the sky from the initial dots. Coming. What a terrifying artifact. Is this the chariot and horse vehicle used by people outside the Xingyu? This, how many people can ride on it? The Xingyu people are so powerful. The masters from various local forces were shocked to see the fleet forces hanging high in the sky. Even those who knew about it were like this, let alone the unknown local forces and the larger number of common people. At least on the half of the planet where the fleet appeared, the people on the ground who saw the scene were all speechless, with their mouths wide open enough to fit into their fists. Weird, monster. Is the devil coming? What an object this is, falling from the sky. You are silent, you have strange power and chaos. Don't spread rumors. Someone will definitely come forward to explain what this thing is. Amitabha, Buddha, and Bodhisattva bless you. Ordinary people have already become a mess. The steel fleet coming from the sky, regardless of the impact, approached slowly and openly. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2842. In fact, it's not just the White God Line's frontline troops who are coming. There are others, such as observers from surrounding forces and even groups of reporters, mixed in the starry sky. When a large-scale war starts, there will never be a shortage of good people to join in. Of course, the people need a window to understand the truth, which is one of the reasons why they can appear here. However, what may surprise people is that behind this frontline force of the White Gods, in addition to reporters from all major areas of the White Gods, there are also flags that are almost impossible to see. That is the reporter's interview ship from the Black God Department. Very surprised? In fact, it is not that surprising. This is a legacy of history, and these interview ships are not from within the Black God system. As mentioned before, the Black and White Gods are still competing for the dominance of neutral forces and planets, but some of them have joined the two in name, and are no different from neutral planet forces. And these interview ships come from those neutral planets. No matter when the Black and White Gods are fighting, these ships will be followed behind them. It seems that they are conniving at the enemy's interviews, but they will not kill or expel them easily. On one of the interview ships, several people were staying at a considerable distance from the White God Department troops and all the White God Department ships. In the Black God Department flag interview ship, there was a young man looking calmly at the scenery outside the window. This kid has come to work on the front line at such a young age. Aren't your adults worried about you? The female reporter carrying large and small bags of photographic equipment and the cameraman behind her were setting up equipment and chatting with someone. The young man kept his eyes straight and responded lightly, "When you come to the front line, you won't have to worry about these things. Isn't that the case for you too?" "That's right, we are national television reporters from the mountain forests star 5 million kilometers away. I wonder which television media you work for." The female reporter was chatting. "I am a handyman for the Star Alliance forces. This time I am just here to take notes." "I see," I said. "Why don't you set up the equipment?" While talking, the female reporter and photographer set up their equipment. The young man moved his seat wisely, and the female reporter smiled gratefully. Then the photographer pointed the camera at her, and the live broadcast, which was obviously interactive with the studio behind, began. The young man no longer looked out the window, but walked not far from the side of the ship. He was dressed in simple clothes, and at first glance he looked no different from any ordinary young man he met on the road. Looking carefully, it has a unique charm, which seems to be extraordinary. He is Jia Yan's Black God clone. The majestic Black God has personally descended on this battlefield. If any reporters present knew about it, they might be shocked beyond measure. This boat is very crowded, and the media that can enter are all the big media personnel in the area. They step on national-level beauty anchors who are supported by hundreds of millions of people behind them. Therefore, everyone has a small group, and everyone talks very politely. Be polite, for fear of causing diplomatic problems. Of course, what makes them even more worried is that they are generally under the jurisdiction of the Black Gods. This war zone is dominated by the White Gods. If they dare to cause trouble, no one will care whether they are media people or not. A battleship light, the problem solve them all. Everyone, please pay attention. The planet in front is called Martial Arts Star. Today, the White God Department is going to the Martial Arts Star to start a battle for the planet with the Black God Department troops stationed on the planet. The beautiful reporter who just talked to Jia Yan was impassioned, pointing to the blue planet shining with the brilliance of life outside the window, and shouted loudly. Expression, movement, body, and atmosphere are all in place. No wonder he can become a national-level reporter. Jia Yan listened with interest. The invitation letter issued by the White God Department to journalists from all walks of life stated that the difficulty of today's battle is how to capture the entire martial arts star while ensuring the safety of the local residents of the martial arts star. This is the biggest problem for them, and they also said that it was difficult to determine whether the black gods would resort to taking local residents as hostages to threaten the white gods when their lives were in danger. Jia Yan almost frowned. This reporter is still leaning towards the Black God Department, and the words reported in the report are already so unpleasant. If it were a reporter from the White God Department, I don't know what they would say. Why is it that your White God sect is the protector of the people, while our Black God sect is the evil force that may use people's lives as a shield? Damn the war of public opinion. It's okay if you don't listen. Listening to it always makes people feel their blood pressure rise. Jia Yan has never been the talkative type, and he hates people who only know how to talk. There is nothing he can do about the current situation. He simply turned a deaf ear to what was going on outside the window, filtered what these reporters said, and focused his attention beyond the interview spaceship. The purpose of his coming here is very simple, that is, he also wants to see if the captain of the immortal cultivator will show anything that interests him in this battle in the starry sky. Other than that, he was not prepared to take action. If the Black God clone takes action, it will be no less than an earthquake for the entire world. As long as he dares to take action today, tomorrow there will be a white dolphin from the White God system coming to the front line to kill the invincible Black God system. Reciprocal revenge is the most basic strategy among forces. Forces that cannot even retaliate will only be abandoned by their subordinates. Therefore, although he is strong, he cannot act rashly and affect his whole body. In other words, he really just came here to take a look, commonly known as wandering around with nothing to do. Anyway, in his senses, the strength of the strong men around him, the strength arrangement of the troops, and the gap in combat power between the two sides were all clear, and there were almost no surprises. Soon, he got into a better mood and closed his eyes to relax in this bustling interview boat. Okay, this is very pretentious. Well. Suddenly, Jia Yan's eyebrows frowned deeper. He opened his eyes showing a little surprise. While he was concentrating with his eyes closed just now, his thoughts were flying, combined with the black power around him, traveling millions of kilometers around him. This was already an incredible range of perception for this clone body. But just now, he suddenly felt some kind of weak fluctuation in the quiet and empty starry sky, and this fluctuation was extremely sensitive. When Jia Yan's perception touched him, he suddenly curled up and moved with lightning speed. The tendency to hide his ears instantly disappeared from Jia Yan's perception. Is it an illusion? Such energy cannot exist in this world. Jia Yan's brows refused to relax. Reason told him that the abnormality in his perception just now was probably caused by his own weakness. Otherwise, it would be difficult to explain what the power I just perceived was. The power that can be divided at a touch definitely exceeds that of the Black God clone, and is probably more than half a star level, reaching a star level. You must know that it was a star level. At the beginning of the half-star level and star level, he used a lot of strength to kill the enemy beyond the level. And when he broke through to the star level, his entire strength improved by leaps and bounds. If there really are any stars in this world, Jia Yan believes that even if there is only one, if he joins forces with the white dolphins, he will be killed, and there will be no room for change. Am I being sensitive, or? Jia Yan's eyes became profound. Even if I don't believe in this body's perception, it's impossible not to believe in the sixth sense that comes from the real body. I didn't expect it. White dolphin, did you actually hide such a backhand? No wonder. Jia Yan was enlightened. Why, the white dolphin has suffered at the hands of the clones in this world several times, but it still works tirelessly and regroups without any discouragement. Do you have stellar level means and even transport stellar level masters into this world? Isn't that cheating? Damn it, if I hadn't come here to watch the show in person, even the other clones wouldn't be able to sense the existence of the star level. Old guy, you are not a son of a man, do this trick for me. Jia Yan took a breath and cursed in his heart after trying to pass. White Dolphin behaves like he is taking charge, and then he cheats and cheats. It can be said that he is shameless and shameless. If he had stellar combat power, things would be different. Jia Yan came back to his senses from the fright, his eyes dark. Although he is also confident that even if a star-level master comes, he can still use his mental power to escape from this world and return to his true body. At most, he will lose a lot of energy after defeat and can only be a turtle in 3 to 5 months, but you will definitely not die in one battle. But for this kind of thing, it would be so embarrassing to directly admit failure. If it's a star-level method, we can't deal with it with the previous methods. Tisk tisk, I finally thought of so many strategies, why don't you come up with this? The feeling of loss is true, but it doesn't reach the level of despair and self-destruction. The team of journalists who were talking around were still connecting, reporting, and making preparations. It was as if he had entered another world, and no one noticed that there was such a young man standing. Boom! The earth trembled. The sky seemed to be split in half, with endless power bursting out, and the air waves surging like giant waves, triggering nearly a Category 12 typhoon. This is already the impact of the behemoth in the sky as low as possible. Countless mortals, countless officials and aristocratic families, countless powerful people, silently watched what was coming from the sky. Words could no longer describe their shock and horror. For those who eat, the food goes into their noses. Those who were fighting dropped their knives to the ground. In the midst of a quarrel, the two hugged each other and trembled. In short, everyone was terrified in front of this almost invincible giant steel monster. And this behemoth, 1 kilometer long, was followed by dozens of large and small frigates. They were all white, with the White God System Air Force logo engraved on them. Is this the front-line troops that the white-robed messengers were talking about? So. Who can defeat such a behemoth and such a majestic spirit? The top local power officials were all dumbfounded and terrified. If they had known that the white-robed forces were so terrifying and had such steel monsters, they would have surrendered to them a long time ago. Even if the three heroes went up to an individual of this size, it would be difficult to split it open with one strike, not to mention that there must be weapons on top. Just such a monster, the three heroes might not be able to defeat it one-on-one, even if there are no masters on it. But if there are no experts above, who would believe this? Bear. The strong wind roared, and the huge battleship swept away hundreds of kilometers of clouds, straight away from the clouds and mist, and entered the martial arts star. Finally, it stopped in mid-air without sparing its energy, as if the planet's gravity did not exist. Afterwards, a steady stream of soldiers and strong men filed out of the mothership. Like ants, they scattered like scattered flowers, flying to major countries and regions in an orderly manner. Obviously, the front-line troops of the White God Department do not look down upon the black-robed envoys on this planet. Both sides know the truth. They are very clear about the fact that the black and white robes belong to the second-rate troops. If the regular army can still defeat the second-rate intelligence department, they no longer need to stay at the front line. They might as well pack up their belongings and go home to farm. Not to mention the local white-robed troops assisting them, which are not much weaker than the black-robed troops. The scattered teams of White God soldiers were also quite relaxed. They regarded this battle as a holiday after the results of the front-line battlefield, talking and laughing along the way. However, among the White God team that caused chaos and noise in the martial arts planet, one of them looked a little solemn. And the number of people in this team far exceeds that of other forces, almost equivalent to more than half of the members of the entire martial arts star force. All of them were unscrupulous and aimed their power at the land on the ground not far from the battleship. The heaven and earth were shaking due to their combined energy. Such a shocking energy target is naturally not a simple person. And on this planet with mediocre combat power, there is only one person who can be treated with dignity by the frontline troops of the White God series, Shiyuan. The three heroes are far from enough. This person is Jia Yan, who is in the small town of Greenwater Beach in Taiguo. Sir, they are coming. In the small town of Lushuatan where Jia Yan is located, the Taiguo black-robed squad has concentrated in this area. It is said to be concentrating all available forces to deal with the enemy. In fact, they should be greedy for life and afraid of death. Seek asylum. There are 2 missing people in black robes from this Taiguo squad. They all fled or surrendered to the enemy in the past 2 days due to fear of fighting. It's just that they can't achieve their goal. Well, are you here? Being reminded by someone's voice, Jia Yan didn't think too much, and calmly opened the office door. With a ghost-headed sword on his back, he walked out of the office as usual. This Greenwater Beach is also pitiful. There have been a lot of military disasters in the past few days. Can anyone help me remember it so that I can make it up to them later? Yes. The female in black robe who followed Jia Yan step by step was startled, and nodded quickly in response. She is no longer the arrogant woman who used to quarrel with Jia Yan on everything. How dare she pretend to be a big-tailed wolf in front of such an expert? Jia Yan walked out of the original headquarters of Greenwater Beach. All the members of the black robe team were waiting outside the door. The leader in black robe said respectfully, "I have met you, sir. We are fully prepared. Please lead us to fight. You are my boss, please don't belittle yourself. I'm just trying my best." Jia Yan smiled, held his head high and looked at the dark figure gradually approaching the land from the sky.